believe that I am the best person for the job of President of the United States. My unique talents give me the ability to be assertive and diplomatic at the same time. I'm a person who will spike the conversation, who will get politics rolling and stimulate new questions and new answers to our current political dilemma facing our nation. I believe I have a keen understanding of the economy and how to improve where we're at relative to other nations around the world. I believe that our goal at America's Third Party was to create a very strong platform in which would propel the American people forward with new opportunities and a new possibility of creating a better nation, a cleaner environment, and less war. Give me the ability to be assertive and diplomatic at the same time.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to America's Third Party. I'm David Sponheim, and this is Truth Tuesday. Welcome. We've got really weird news to discuss today. Yeah, strange things happening in the world. Jussie Smollett getting off scot-free. No charges, nothing on his record. He wrote a check for $3,500 to those two guys to beat him up and throw bleach on him, to make it a hate crime. But now he's claiming the check was for nutrition and training. Yeah, and everybody's dropping interest in this. It's like, well, yeah, there's a reason. The day that Jussie Smollett became the national story, and the week, really, the Houston PD admitted they lied about a raid that killed an innocent couple. A BBC producer revealed the hospital scene was staged after a Doma sarin attack. Mainstream media never covered it. The beef industry is now backing bills to ban the sale of plant-based meats, which is kind of ironic considering a lot of people are going vegetarian and non-GMO. And a report found a record-breaking $5.7 billion was spent on the midterm elections, meaning there's a lot at stake in controlling our government. Now back to your regular scheduled brainwashing. Yeah, so the Jussie Smollett thing is really a classic case of him being used, kind of like an Illuminati puppet. Whatever happened to him essentially means that he's basically back where he was, you know, no foul, no harm. He lost $10,000. He had to put up a bond issue, but they say that the cost of the trial or whatever that they spent wasn't a trial, just accusations, was way more than that. But it's very interesting to note that they've sealed the entire case. Yeah, they sealed it. They said, after reviewing all the facts and circumstances of the case, including Mr. Smollett's volunteer service in the community an agreement to forfeit his bond to the city of Chicago. We believe this outcome is a just disposition and an appropriate resolution, according to the Cook County Attorney's Office. According to the Chicago Mayor, Rahm Emanuel blasted the decision, saying $10,000 bond doesn't come close to what the city spent in resources. Emanuel accused Smollett of using hate crime legislation to self-promote his career. Well, at least Rahm Emanuel had the balls to say that. Please don't talk about anybody like that guy who's a liar, a known liar. Thanks. This is a whitewash of justice, Emanuel said. Where's the accountability in the system? For him to be saying that, that's saying a lot. But it's really interesting to note that the man, brothers Ola and Abel Osundaro, told the police that Smollett paid them $3,500 by check to help orchestrate and stage the crime after he became upset that a threatening letter addressed to him and sent to the Fox Cent, where Empire's film, did not get enough attention. So he sent a threatening letter to himself? Yeah. He sent a threatening letter to himself, and with apparently aspirin, which is an extreme crime to send aspirin in the mail because it looks like, anthrax. Then he staged this event, and now he walks away scot-free. And he claims that according to Smollett, the $3,500 check was for nutrition and training advice. Okay. The actor was indicted with 16 counts of disorderly conduct for allegedly falsifying a police report, a Class 4 felony that is punishable by up to 3 years in prison. It's just amazing to me how this guy is being used as a ploy to divert our attention from the key issues. Thank you. I don't think Juicy's in the mood for talking about it, but was he involved as an Illuminati puppet? He's asked to do anything. If he has to get on all fours and, bark like a dog, he'll do that. Whatever they want Juicy to do. Apparently he's for hire. If they want to hit the news again, Juicy's ready to go. They'll juice him up and some other story will pop up. As soon as they need to cover up multiple stories at the same time, Juicy's on call. The rabbit hole is deep. Well, anyway, page 6 has more story on it. It's, yeah. It's just that these people have so much control over the media, they create staged events and then they give people a free ride. Here's Juicy. Apparently, it gets even weirder. Chicago Police Union has demanded a federal investigation into the county's top prosecutor for allegedly interfering in the Juicy Smollett case after being contacted by Michelle Obama's former chief of staff. So we're talking about federal contamination of a city police situation, which is illegal. Juicy, please. Thank you. My gosh. Anyway, it's going to get deeper. The federal jury investigation or federal grand jury investigation is hardly enough. If it happens, that'll be great. Meanwhile, Robert Mueller we have solid information that according to, we have, let's say sketchy information, according to somebody in our room who worked with Robert Mueller or claimed to work with Robert Mueller, said that Robert Mueller was bragging about all the money he made past couple weeks. And this person goes on to say that he was gloating about all the money he was making. And then Giuliani has said that Robert Mueller made $30 million adjudicating this joke of a special counsel he put together, which didn't even subpoena Donald Trump for 10 years of tax returns. Not to mention overlooked the entire second part of Paul Manafort's money laundering case and wrapped up the case like it was his tidy whities and has to be put up the cupboard. Yeah. So 232 is a person in here who claims he'd worked with him, and he said white supremacists made him do it. Now, does Donald Trump have a group of white supremacists working for him? Well, I don't know. I mean, you got to wonder. I couldn't understand why David Duke endorsed Donald Trump. I couldn't understand that until maybe now I'm beginning to understand why David Duke, because Trump is a Zionist. He supports Israel completely, and David Duke doesn't like anything like that. So maybe white supremacists are in the back door of this administration. Very good possibility. Yeah, they don't want their man to fail because they think they're getting an edge over Muslims and people of color. I'd be outraged if I were Ilhan Omar, but I'm not a person who's handed an office. They wouldn't give me a chance to run for office as a third-party candidate in this local area. And even when I did blackface, they used it against me, even though it's my right to do blackface. It's freedom of speech. They don't even understand that in the Democratic Party. But Omar, she gets to speak out all she wants. And we're finding out that she possibly married her brother in order to become a U.S. congresswoman, or in order to become a citizen. She married her brother. That's what the story is. I don't know if it's true or not, but it could be Omar is in will have problems with immigration someday. Well, they should be scared of me. I'm the guy who's going to clean this whole thing up. Yeah, I'm not going to take any prisoners either. My goal is to make sure that people understand that integrity is restored in government, but I'm not going to hurt average people. In fact, you people who are average, like myself, need a hand up and an opportunity to work from your house. So what I plan on doing is monopoly busting one of the major corporations out there. And when I do that, we're going to offer a lot of people jobs paying $36,000 a year. When you're working from your house, it'd be nice to get a check for $3,000 a month, wouldn't it? We have the ability to do this. The government already owns one of the major corporations. I'm not going to tell you which one I'm going to do it to, but we already own one of the major corporations. Technically, we have the presiding shares through a shell corporation. So there is a company that could easily hire hundreds of thousands of people, $36,000 a year. So those are the jobs we're going to be opening up when we socialize that company. And that company's pretty pathetic. White nationalists, white supremacists, I don't know the difference. I really don't know much about those people other than they claim that they're superior to people of different backgrounds and colors. It's racialism is what it is. Him getting off is insane. I know. You steal a donut, they put you on probation, jail time to get bonded out and type other tests that want to perform. You steal a dozen eggs in Mississippi, you could go to jail for a few years. But this guy, 14 different counts, planning his own attacks to make a hate crime a major issue, make him feel like he's being victimized. He gets off scot-free. So this is a clear example with Jussie Smollett of how corrupt our country is. When people like Rahm Emanuel are up in arms, even he and many of the Democrats who've obviously been connected to some pretty shady characters in Chicago, even he's upset. So you can imagine. Yeah. Electric Paisley believes that Jussie Smollett's lawyer must have something they blackmailed the U.S. Attorney's Office with. Very possible. Yeah. This kind of lack of justice right in our face is clear examples of the corruption that I've been talking about. When Mueller announced that there are not going to be any obstruction charges, and then William Barr, who wrote a 19-page letter supporting Michael Flynn, of all things, months ago, when he said that this nearly exonerates the president, that's just not true. None of this is true. They're trying to close the door. That means that we're not dealing with collusion. We're dealing with total collusion. Total collusion. Far worse than collusion. We're dealing with a government that's been virtually hijacked by Zionist elitists that run their operations out of a secretive organization that makes donations to our Democrats and Republicans called AIPAC. And they're not even a political action committee, which is a suspicious aspect of this. They're a political affairs committee. Technically, they're not allowed to make donations to candidates. They're not a registered political action committee, haven't been for 50 years. Well, ever since McCain-Feingold was put in place, they had to register as political action committee. They can't make donations. They're not a PAC. They're a political affairs committee. Anyway, AIPAC is virtually the monetary power behind all of the candidates in the two-party system that are rigging our government. The C word is collusion, yeah. So we're not talking about a little bit of collusion. Because Mueller ruled there's no collusion and no obstruction, we have to assume it's total collusion now. I actually believed Guest 232 when he said he worked for Mueller, and the Mueller was gloating about all the money he made recently. And then the news just announced that Rudy Giuliani has stated that excuse me while I kiss the sky. Jimi Hendrix. So Giuliani, it says Rudy Giuliani falsely claims Robert Mueller was paid $30 million for probe, and Fox News, Sean Hannity doesn't correct him. I don't think Rudy's off on this one. I think Giuliani's right on this. But you see how they frame it? They say, oh, he falsely claims. You like the hair? Thank you. You're so kind. Giuliani is still alive. He's Donald Trump's major attorney. He's handling his case. We're talking about major power brokers, mobsters, people like that. Yeah. Michael Cohen proved to be a mobster. In fact, all the people working for Trump seemed were kind of shady characters, weren't they? It's kind of amazing, all the people. And when we look at all the different things that have happened recently, yeah, you got to wonder what's happening here. I'll read this for you. I'm going to run it on the script. I ran this last night. It was written by one of the people in our room. I thought I kicked Scrizzle here. Let's move him out of there. Wow. You need to fix potholes? We've got Slurry to do that. That's this guy named Slurry. He goes around, hey, you got a pothole? I got some Slurry here, man. Slurry works great. We're using it in our area. They just put a new road in 7 years ago, and we're still having to put Slurry down because roads break over time. We're not sure what you're talking about, unique talents. No, free throw. It's not weird to think that I was older than Sarah by 18 years. Not at all. I went into a couple sessions of celibacy as a young man, waiting for Sarah. You know, when she's growing up, I just felt in my heart that the one I'd be with was still growing. Still, you know, I didn't know her. I'd never met her. I just kind of waited, and I thought, well, someday she'll be there for me. And she was. Okay, Empire Writers have announced that see y'all Wednesday. Yeah, they're back in business, the Illuminati puppets that they are. Yeah, see y'all Wednesday. Prosecutors drop all charges against actor Jussie Smollett. Yeah, I'll be back in it. So apparently you can lie, cheat, fake, steal, and do all kinds of things in Chicago and get away with it. Wow. It's called the internet. Yeah, the internet is a great place to meet people, in case you didn't know. What year are you living in? Okay, so apparently William Barr, our Attorney General, who's, I think, working for Russia, he hasn't really complained on this whole issue. He hasn't said fully that it exonerates Trump, because he's walking in very, very shady land. It turns out that William Barr took 3 weeks to just wait it. Didn't tell anybody that Mueller wasn't going to propose obstruction charges. So that's weird. Why did William Barr wait 3 weeks to tell us? But now George Conway in an op-ed says if Mueller report doesn't exonerate Trump, it must include something pretty damning. And maybe that's what the Democrats are going to have to get. Now, if the Democrats can't get a copy of this report from William Barr, then there's going to be a breach of shared information. Because this entire case is not a national security issue, but according to Mueller it was, when there was a mention of a sex selfie in his file. There's a sex selfie in the file of Donald Trump. I'm not kidding. It really is there. Mueller got all hissy and had a hissy fit and claimed that Concord Management Consulting did something very wrong by talking about the case to the public, but they simply responded to Mueller's threats and lawsuits and indictments against the Russian firm, and Concord Management and Consulting got a laundry list of everything in the Trump file from Mueller, and one of them was a sex selfie. I'm just reporting the news here. That's the only thing of national security interest at this point. Donald Trump's involvement in money laundering, receiving funds from Russian oligarchs. We estimate 109 million over a 4-year period. Not paying taxes over 10 years. The fact that Mueller hasn't even prosecuted or has gotten a subpoena for the tax returns at all, and never prosecuted Manafort on the money laundering charges. There's all kinds of judicial malfeasance committed by Mueller. So if Mueller is having a wonderful day, enjoying himself, thinking about all the money he made, I wouldn't doubt that he made $30 million. Because apparently this guy is buyable. They own him, just like they own Donald. The powerful players, the people that control our country, are virtually buying off justice right now. Same with Jussie Smollett. Yeah, it's really happening. You've never taken a selfie ever? You know, I have never taken a selfie either. I've got a lot of proof behind everything I say. Buyable, yeah. Look at what Robert Mueller did during the 2001 World Trade Center attack. We're going to look at that closer tonight. I've got a whole file on him. Yeah. Now, this isn't Robert Mueller. I had a whole file on him, let's just say that. We'll get it up there in a little bit. News that is very shocking. You know how the vaccine industry is pushing themselves on various counties legislation-wise now, and they're doing herd inoculations? ABC, New York County just banned unvaccinated kids from all public places. You can't take your kid to a park if he's unvaccinated. So that means they're going to require cards for people to wear, or bands on their head for vaccinated kids. This is an outrageous violation of the Fourth Amendment. You can't stick a needle in somebody and claim that isn't a breach of their privacy. I mean, come on. Wow. The truth is, sticking a needle in you is the biggest breach of privacy. Yeah, New York is out of control. I probably will have to put New York under federal control. I'm anticipating when I become president of sending the National Guard, sending New York's National Guard in and having them activated with the help of the New York governor. We're not going to be able to control New York. No. They've fallen too far into socialist squandering of money. Same with California. We may have to seize control over California too. I'm sorry to say, but this mismanagement of our government and the fiscal mismanagement at the state levels has gone on too long. I will be putting together a comprehensive plan for the governors to look at when I'm president, in which they can cut areas that make sense, and they'll have options to go in either direction. But if they don't make major cuts in the cost of running states like New York and LA, or states like New York and California, LA being the biggest problem in California, we're going to have to do something. And I think we've got to get fiscal responsibility back on track somehow. So we'll start with that. I'm not threatening to bring the National Guard in to states like New York or California until I absolutely need to. But it does look like these states are running out of control with their socialist agenda. Okay, Chicago Sun-Times, dropping charges against Jussie Smollett, a whitewash of justice, Rahm Emanuel says. And I rarely agree with Rahm, but I would agree with him on this one.
First of all, I want to thank my family, my friends, the incredible people of Chicago and all over the country and the world who have prayed for me, who have supported me, who've shown me so much love. No one will ever know how much that has meant to me, and I will forever be grateful.
Oh, BS, man. You had people spray you with bleach and call you hate crime names just to make yourself look better and the empire get more money. I mean, this is crazy. This guy should never have been given no charges whatsoever. He claims the $3,500 check he wrote these two guys was supposed to be for nutrition and training. I mean, hello, how much nutrition and training do you get for $3,500? Come on. Who's kidding who? You're an Illuminati puppet, and we can spot you a mile away, Juicy. That's right, baby. Y'all own, man. A black man who's owned by the white man. Unfortunately. I know a lot of you black people are worried that, you'll ever get a a black president, because Barack Obama was not a black president, I assure you. He acted like a white man. I'd be more of a black president than him. I mean it, too. I'd care more about the people in the inner city than this guy, than Obama. Or Juicy. All right, so what do we have here? $2 Taco Tuesday. That'd be nice, yeah. Trump's Russian collusion was just an illusion. My boy Mueller has said it's proven this is a factual conclusion. Ron Scoop. Mueller was in total collusion. Mueller is on the take. Mueller will be added to the investigation, the broader investigation that I'll be putting together in 2021. And I'm going to include an investigation into the same group of people perpetrating the 9/11 attack. If they're able to pull this off and cover up collusion with Russia, these Zionists may very well be at the heart of the 9/11 attack. Because we never got the people that perpetrated that, you know. The only person that we ever got was this guy. This poor guy who just literally had 68 waterboardings before he finally admitted to some collusion in the 9/11 attack. You waterboard somebody 68 times, they'll tell you whatever you want to hear. Seriously. Our director of the CIA, Gina Haspel, was responsible for waterboarding this guy 68 times before he finally revealed something that they felt was enough to incriminate him. The United States concealed the existence of taped telephone calls between the alleged mastermind of the 9/11 attacks, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, who spoke in code with 3 of his accused co-conspirators. Why did they conceal the existence of these telephone calls? Probably because he said, "I did not do it. I did not do it." He probably said over and over again in various encrypted languages in Farsi that he did not do it. And he was forced to speak out and claim that he did. This is the only guy we ever nabbed. And you got 2,996 people dead still. And a government that's corrupt as hell. Let me tell you something. If you look at the 9/11 attack up close, I'm going to blow some holes in it right now for all of you to look at. Okay? Just real simple, no pun intended. Yeah. We're gonna take a look at the footage of 9/11 that's most damning. And this is the weird part. The FBI had 83 camera angles that they could choose from to look at the 9/11 attack. They choose only one camera angle at the Pentagon and release only 15 frames showing this. Take a look at this corner of this picture right here. Right here. See that? You'll see it very closely. We'll zoom in on it. That is not a 757 or 767 jet. I got news for you. That is a missile of a Tomahawk. That's a cruise missile. It even has the markings of a cruise missile. So how did a bunch of 18 ragtag Saudi Arabians who could barely speak English, who had no training except on a Piper Cub to fly a plane, how did they make the most complicated maneuver in world history with a 757 with a nose cone that looks like a cruise missile? What, do they strap on a cruise missile nose cone to this thing? It's absurd. That alone is enough proof to reopen the case, and the architects and engineers of 9/11 who signed on, I believe 10,000 architects and engineers said that the World Trade Center could not have been. Yeah, look at the low quality of the photo too. The World Trade Center could not have been taken down by 2 planes. Structurally, the two major towers were built like super strong to handle a 707, which is not that different in weight from a 757. And we're talking about towers that were built to last. They've all signed on that this is definitely a demolition. And then I raised the other question. Building 6, not just Building 7. Building 7 was not hit by a plane and went down, according to the 9/11 Commission, with structural fire. That had to have been detonated. But look at Building 6, which the 9/11 Commission report didn't even address. Building 6 had one massive hole in the middle of it. That was the kind of hole the Oklahoma City bombing happened. It's similar to the same kind of blow that happened. How can that not be considered a demolition or a massive bomb? And who set the bomb? And how many weeks in advance? And how come there's no discovery in this case? That alone is another example that we need to look at as to why they did not include explosives in the analysis of the 9/11 attack. And let's not forget, Robert Mueller was the one that signed off on this. Yeah. Yep. Same guy. Same sneaky snake that just signed the deal and claimed there's no collusion. The reason why according to him, there's no collusion is because they paid him $30 million. That's right. There's no collusion. Yeah. That's right. It killed 2,996 people. Okay, now Alex Jones is pushing more conspiracy theories about the man who allegedly died, or he did, well, I don't know, have we seen a body yet? Alex Jones is now claiming that there's a conspiracy theory about him, the guy who was suing him. Jones, I mean, what happened to this guy? This whole Sandy Hook thing is like really getting even crazier. Yeah, it is. Yeah, Alex, I'm the guy who's seriously concerned about all the false flags going on in the country. Mississippi man pled guilty to healthcare fraud, money laundering, and tax evasion for a role in a $200 million compounding pharmacy scheme. Lucha for life. Wow. I didn't know about that. Thanks. Well, 30 million is enough to buy anybody, I guess. How many people would pretty much say whatever anyone wanted to hear for $30 million? Press 1. I mean, you could be honest here. You know, I don't care. I'm not going to hate you because you take money for all this. I wouldn't. Badger Waxer would. 30 million can buy anybody, apparently. Well, the fire chief didn't say pull it. Actually, it was Larry Silverstein maxed out credit. Larry Silverstein, the owner of the two buildings, had just bought them and somehow managed to get terrorist tourists, which no one ever offered. And Larry Silverstein made a huge amount of money on that, $5.4 billion. He's the guy that said pull it, which is a term used by demolition experts when they were looking at Building 7. That was the guy that was suing Alex Jones, yeah. You know, it's very possible that this guy who was suing Alex Jones, who was a top neuroscientist, by the way, probably just said, hey, I'm not going to be part of this. I want out. I don't care what you people are going to do. I'm leaving, and said to his wife, hey, I'm out of here. He could have just said, hey, we're moving on. But no, they offed him. They suicided him. And you know what's really weird about this story? The Sandy Hook victim's father that died of an apparent suicide. There's no evidence of a suicide. There's no picture of the crime scene of him hanging or what happened to him. Yes, Larry Silverstein, who's the Ashkenazi that took out huge insurance policies, made $5.4 billion on the attacks. Yes, he profited. He also made $195 million last year from United Airlines when he sued the airline company for having planes that could be attacked by terrorists, and he won. He made $195 million last year, Larry Silverstein. United got hit hard. That's not exactly easy for a company that flies every day. That's a huge gouge, $195 million in a court case. So they had to pay through the nose for that. But as far as this man here, he's dead, or is he? Do we even know? Do we see his body? Do we have any proof of anything? No. Do we have any proof he died? We do. I did read a story that he had a note. He left a note, but no one's read it. There's not one piece of evidence that he left a note for a specific reason. Without reading his suicide note, you can't just say this is an apparent suicide. No, I'm not wanting anything. Excuse me while I whip this out. Well, good for you, man. You're proud of your genitals. At least you're human. Waitress made a point to tell you that your band playing tomorrow night may go back tomorrow. Okay. I'll make a point of... Okay, you went there? Thank you. Thanks for sharing where you went. Okay. I like how Sarah does the show. She just has these long waiting periods where there's no talking. And she gives you guys the silent treatment. I always knew that that was going to happen. Yeah. What about the 737 MAX 8 bugs are all fixed now? Did you hear? Yeah, I don't believe it. No. I don't trust Boeing. Every day they fly the jets that they built in a quick way over my house. Well, of course the Mueller report found no collusion because the Mueller report was bought off. That's what total collusion is. And Bob Barr wrote a 19-page letter requesting Rod Rosenstein not investigate obstruction charges. He's on record. Our Attorney General is on record writing this 19-page letter, not wanting obstruction charges and claiming that Michael Flynn was innocent. Well, Bob Barr got that wrong. Yeah, I mean, William Barr got that wrong. He actually was completely wrong. Apparently, Michael Flynn worked for Russia and Turkey while he was our national security advisor. 24 days, our top secrets were in the hands of Russia. I believe that William Barr needs to be disbarred as attorney and attorney general. I believe it's time to really look at the underbelly of corruption here. Russia and the Zionists who control both America, the American elite Ashkenazis, as well as the Russian oligarch Ashkenazis, are in total collusion here. They're owning our country. They run it. You, the American people, are just hapless dupes wondering what's for dinner tonight and what's on TV. They've already taken full control of your media. Most of your minds have been brainwashed over the past 50 years, so it's hardly it's hardly likely you're going to do anything at all. The very fact that I do this show every day is the only resistance out there. The only resistance. They've got everybody else brainwashed and controlled as either hapless idiots like Democrats who are wandering around going, we just need to do something, but it has to come from taxes. And then you've got the Republicans who look at everyone as they're below them. Like a bag person is hopelessly will never work, so just let him die. That's what they think. So they got people turned into indifferent sociopaths like Meow TV, or super caring imbeciles who have no idea what they're talking about, like the Democrats. Thank you. They would. There are Republicans that would run over poor people if they could and just leave their bodies if it was legal. Pile along the freeway. They would. There's some Republicans like Bob, who runs over dogs. He could run over bag people just the same. He doesn't care. Of course, there's a lot of Bobs named Republicans named Bob, so it's not a big deal. I'm not like slandering you, Bob. Second man found dead in the Democratic donor Ed Buck's apartment, also OD'd on meth. Wow. Timothy Dean was found dead in Buck's apartment after Jamel Moore, 26, died there in 2017. 2 years, a political activist and prominent Democratic donor, Ed Buck's West Hollywood apartment, died of a methamphetamine overdose. I think this guy needs to get checked out, Ed Buck. Dean, 55, was found dead in Buck's apartment after Jamel Moore died there in July of 2017. I think Ed Buck's got some serious issues going on there. Yeah, there he is, Ed Buck in 2010. So Democratic fundraiser, 2 people died of methamphetamine overdoses in his apartment. The government turns a blind eye. Okay. Well, what they've done is they justified 2 wars with the 9/11 attack. There's evidence that there weren't even any bodies on the ground when the Flight 93 crashed. Check out a witness to the Flight 93 crash.
On fire, some small fires in the woods, just small brush fires. The ground smoking, debris everywhere, pieces of metal, paper, insulation, wiring. And I just looked around and no people, and I'm thinking, where are the people?
Well, those people aboard Flight 93 who resisted the hijackers are now being remembered as heroes in the history of the United States for preventing a calamity from being an even worse one.
Where have all the people gone? So there were no people on the ground, no body parts. My mother was a professor of nursing back in the 1980s, and she had students that had all worked the San Diego airplane crash down there. Many of them were active nurses, and they actually described the scene when they got to the plane crash back in the early days before plane crashes became, a strict NTSB cordoned off area. The nurses all said that there were people out there in the field picking up body parts to put in jars that they can keep and take home with them as souvenirs. Body parts everywhere. So there were local people in San Diego that were out there picking up fingers and putting them in jars so they can take them home and say, look, that's a finger from the flight that crashed. This is not, numerous witnesses said this. But one thing that's always true with a flight crash like that, you see bodies. You see body parts. It's part of the carnage. When you hit the tarmac, your body rips apart. But in that particular case, Flight 93 had no bodies at all, which means they probably landed Flight 93 somewhere. Well, it turns out that there were strong pieces of evidence that we can piece together about this. Even the mayor of Cleveland said that a flight exactly like the one described by Flight 93 had landed. And they'd actually, everyone was fine. We have evidence of that. I just don't have it handy at my fingertips right now. Lots of things just don't add up. There's a picture of an attack on the 9/11 attack on the Pentagon that has been suppressed, a photograph. But if I play it, I run the risk of having a worldwide ban on our show, so I don't know if I'm going to play it for you. I'll play just a little of it.
Hello, it's Tuesday, July the 26th, 6:14 p.m. Just got this video. I'm sure many have seen this, but I've never seen the captions right here of these little explosions. I circled them that clearly point out there's no huge jet flying into the Pentagon, and right there. I mean.
Yes. Hello, can I help you? Go ahead. Yes, can I help you? Hello? Okay, so you can see right there that it was not a jet. So why did Mueller sign off on this when he was director of the FBI? The only honest answer to this is he was bought off then. They bought him off then, they're buying him off again.
Jet flying into the Pentagon.
Yeah, I mean, that's not a jet, folks. No, don't leave your grandma alone unattended if she's not doing well. No. Always stay by her side. Okay, Sarah's here. Thank you, Sarah. Thanks for coming in and hanging out with us. Give me a break. I heard the Secretary of Education defunded the Olympics for disabled people. Busy. Yeah. Doesn't surprise me. Thank you for telling me.
Well, you're taking her on the vacation Isle of Fries?
Yeah, if you got to be with your grandma.
Well, I would say you're taking her on the vacation. That is taking her, and then you would leave her in the cabin as much as you leave her at your house.
No, don't leave anybody if she's not doing well. You don't even take her on a trip. But if she wants to go, then go. But don't leave her aside. Be with her. Spend time with her. She's your grandma. Her days are numbered, and she wants to spend them with her grandson. Hello? What's wrong with you, man? Don't you care? Jeez. Yeah. Well, take care of her. You're your grandson. I mean, these are precious times you need to cherish with your grandmother. Nothing's more important than your grandmother right now. His grandmother wanted us to play Chris Isaak in our pre-show, and I did. Wicked, you know.
Defunded Olympics. Okay. Oh.
That was really a good song.
What was it?
Chris Isaak's Wicked
Oh,
Game. It's one of the best songs he ever did, I think.
Chris Isaak has some good songs, yeah.
Yeah, it starts like this.
Yeah, that's one of
Isn't that a great song?
That's actually one of like the best music video of all time, or something romantic.
I think so. Romantically, I was kind of touched by it. It was like, wow, it was done so well. All right, Sarah's here to give you guys some calming moments as
They
I
bought her
sort
a ticket so that she can go and see waves moving in her. Have you talked to your grandma about?
Yeah, what does she want? Ask her what she wants.
Does she want to stay in front of the cabin, in the cabin window? Looking at the ocean? Because some grandmas wouldn't want to be a burden. And then others will throw a fit if you don't take them everywhere you go.
Yes. Yes, my name is Dave. I'm the digital audio video entity. Thank you. That's Dave. Correct. I'll be back. I'll be back. That video turned you on? Wow. See, Chris Isaak's still doing it for you. That's a timeless musical.
Hated that song and video when you were 10, I understand.
Yeah. So Rudy Giuliani, according to this, falsely claims Mueller was paid $30 million for the probe. I think Giuliani's honest about this. And this is one instance where I think Rudy Giuliani's right. Now, let's not forget that Rudy Giuliani is solely responsible for the sickness of 50,000 people who developed respiratory problems, in which the government had to award a Zadroga bill to give $4 to $7 billion to New York State to cover respiratory health of 50,000 first responders to the 9/11 attack. When Rudy Giuliani was mayor of New York, he didn't tell anybody to wear an air mask. It's gross negligence on his part. Anyone going into that hellhole of dirt and debris without an air mask is now suffering from serious asbestosis and mesothelioma. I will let her on. I just want to verify that this is the same guy that basically led to 50,000 people suffering. He's now working closely with the president. And he claims that Mueller was paid $30 million, and Fox goes with that story. So I think Mueller was bought off. I'm pretty sure of it. And we had a person come into our show over here who claims that he works with Mueller, and that for the past week, Mueller has been just bragging, gloating about all the money he made. Now, I can't verify it, but Guest 232 over at, I don't know if he's there anymore, but over at iVlog. No, he's not in right now, but he was in earlier, and he said that he'd work for him. That he actually was viable. Yeah. Now, that's just hearsay. I know that, but
Yes, especially from a guest.
yeah, I know. But still, somebody did say that he worked for him.
Well, he said it was from a guest who posted a link or posted information in the chat. Yes, this is my real hair. And let me see. It's okay. It smells pretty good. But I have been working outside, so I'll probably wash it tonight. Yes, exactly. The guests that gave him his viewership numbers and the other things that are, and the information on Mark and the other things about people who I thought died or that claims to be still broadcasting. I don't use the swim spa as much as David does. We actually need to repair it, and then I'll probably start using it maybe. But I don't know, maybe we'll repair it over spring break. But in the winter, I don't like getting out in cold air. That's my thing. It's like nice to get into the swim spa, nice to exercise in the swim spa, But then when I get out and the cold air hits me, it's like, ah. But then, I guess it's like I could go jump in the hot shower. That's what David usually does. That report guaranteed one thing. Gee, your hair smells terrific. I don't use that. I use, which is another one I would probably have to find it on eBay or something. I use a thing called, if I can find it, Infusium 23 Step 2. That's the conditioner I use. What, Tom Jones? What? Yeah, why don't they just release the report to the public? I don't get that. Especially if no collusion was found. Why are they just keeping it in the Attorney General's office? Thank you, Electric Paisley. Yes, when you type in all caps, that is chat. The chat equivalent of screaming. Please don't scream at me. There's no reason to. Yeah, I think we'll be waiting a long time. Well, then, can they release it? Can they release a redacted version of the report then, Tom Jones? It's just that the people were waiting to hear, and it was paid for by taxpayers. Who does the report belong to, if not the taxpayers? I'm so sorry you're feeling unsafe. We'll use a different name. A Southwest Boeing 737 MAX makes an emergency landing in Orlando. The FAA cites engine issue that is unrelated to recent crashes. Innocent until proven guilty, I guess, Tom. Everyone is in the U.S. But I don't like Trump. I will say that. Currently, I'm not actually working on anything. I'm reading the news a little bit, but I've caught up on all of my to-do list. There were some things I could do to promote some people or promote some ideas. But I sent out a few emails and a few, for you lines, and I haven't heard anything back on those. Misanthropy, yes, sure. You can even say I said that. Because that's what I'm thinking. Why is it you know what I'm thinking and other people never do? All right. The House failed to override Trump's veto, so the national emergency order remains in place. Hello. Oh, and Meta Nemesis is here. Finding a safe space was really difficult. Wow. David's spot. Hello, Jessica. Loves Jesus. Nice. Not many people are broadcasting tonight. Is that what it is? Hello, Jesse. I guess I'm glad that they dropped the charges on you. Please don't do that again. I hope you learned your lesson. Well, if you continue to type in all caps, Tom Jones, I'm sure it'll give David a headache and he'll just ban you before you do anything. And yes, Misanthropy and I are friends. Because I think Electric Paisley, it was a stupid mistake. And I don't necessarily think we need to spend a lot of taxpayer money for him to learn from that mistake. I think he's already been tried in the court of public opinion. Maybe he should have to repay that. But then what would happen if they went through with everything Electric Paisley is it's going to cost more money in court costs, more money to house him. I think it's just, yeah. He never admitted his mistake publicly. Yeah, maybe they did cancel themselves. Well, good thing I don't watch that show, I'll say. Okay. Hello, Mad Dog. Oh, I am a little bored by the conversation. David is not preparing a $3 dinner tonight. He doesn't really cook on Tuesdays. I almost stopped and got a pizza, but I looked at the clock. I was going to get a pizza. I was telling my friend I'm going to go get a pizza, and then I looked at the clock. Next thing I know, it was like, oh, it's almost 6:30. I better go straight home so I can come on the show. So, yeah. So DeVos has opened an investigation into universities that are tied to the college admissions scandal. Well, I'll eat after David comes back. I'll probably get something out of the freezer. Maybe fish. True, chicken, she paid for it. Yes, I did recently complete my master's degree in learning and technology. So basically, I know how to make online curriculum. No, you could just leave, McDundee. You don't need to be banned. Thank you. Thank you very much. Yes. It was a lot of work, but I just stuck with it. I got it done in 15 months. If you're ever considering going back to school and getting a degree in business, education, nursing, or technology, I can tell you the school to go to because that was the best experience. Sorry, McDundee. I'm not very good at joking, especially online. I'm not very funny in period. Like, I'm just like the straight man. I'd be the straight person. You know how they're always like, people are laughing and then I just keep a straight face? That would be me. It's funny because I like talking to men more than women. Western Governors University is the university I went to. Totally, fully accredited, and so it's wgu.edu, and it wasn't too expensive. A little more than $3,000 every 6 months. I think that's right. And so you pay for 6 months at a time. You have to take a minimum number of credits in that 6 months to have on-time progress. So, but you can take more credits than that if you want to accelerate. The state doesn't. I use my money for the degree, but then the state increases my salary because once I have the degree, so next year I'll get a higher salary as a result of having that degree. That's how our state works. Every single state is different. Okay, chicken. This university doesn't have A through F system. They have a pass-fail or a pass-no-pass system. So it's actually not that pass-no-pass. It's pass or they send it back for revision. Now, if they have to send it back for revision over a certain amount of times, then you would have to have a serious discussion with your mentor and your professor and to see if this is the right fit for you. But most of the time I only had like one revision. I think the very last course I had a couple revisions, but that was because it was like the big course, like the final. They called it a capstone. The thing is, I can't talk about like sports. I can't do it. There are some women that are like that. So there's certain men I can't talk to too. I talk to David all the time, that's true. Yeah, I like talking to men, but not about sports. Bye, Jesse. Your daughter-in-law paid $1,500 per semester for her master's at UCF. Per semester for sometimes it's like per credit. It's crazy. That's good if it's $1,500 per semester. I ended up, so my entire master's degree was definitely less than 10 grand. And I finished it in 15 months. Electric Paisley says $1,500 per semester at UCF? No way. True War Games. Yeah, that's what Ticken says, 1,500 per class, maybe. This is not per class. It's like 3,000 for a minimum of like 3 classes, and then you can take more classes if you can squeeze it in time. What I love about it is the acceleration. So you can finish once you finish your courses, you're like, oh, I have enough time. I can take another class.
Yeah.
And then, so that's how I was able to get. Usually they said it would take normally 24 months, but I cut off 2 years. And
Plus,
I was
you
able
focused
to get
100% when you wanted to.
15
You were
months. Yeah, and then
bored
like
out
in the
of it.
summer when I didn't have students, I just like totally dug in the whole time.
Yeah, no, she worked really hard, and see, Sarah's a perfect example of how you could become a success in
hard work.
America. You know,
Yeah.
you really can. Anybody who really wants to put their mind to it can go out and get a degree, get a good job, and work their hardest and save their money. So the pathway to success is still there in America. But if you don't do all those things for whatever reason, we need a safety net for the people that are without work. And that's why I represent the non-workers of America, and Sarah represents the workers of America. And together we're coming up with ideas like the basic income plan, or what we wrote about in our book, Hybrid Capitalism, Baseline Plus, where the government picks up the baseline of, a place to sleep, food, water, clothing, and then the plus is you work to get ahead. We're not going to give you too much. Now, this guy who's proposing $1,000 a month, he can't possibly finance that. Our government doesn't have that kind of money. But we've done the numbers, and it would hit our government pretty hard. But $700 billion could be allocated to pay every U.S. citizen something. Now, if you get Social Security already or your disability, you won't qualify for this. But if you're a U.S. citizen, you could be able to get, it's like food stamps to the max, like $500 a month. Food stamps to the max kind of thing. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Nothing.
Now, Justin Bieber still admits he loves Selena Gomez, but yeah, he's been facing a lot of problems. He didn't have a prenup with a woman he just married and stayed with for 126 days, and then they divorced. He didn't have a prenup.
Oh, God.
And neither did Jeff Bezos with his wife. So his chances of becoming, not so rich. Well, $80 billion is rich no matter what, but she'll be the richest woman in the world, Jeff Bezos' wife. Fish sticks alone are salty. If you add tater tots, that's really adding the, heavy-duty oil and salt. One or the other. Tater tots or fish sticks. So,
Wow.
Sarah, there's I was thinking maybe you might want to make some of that ravioli with some pesto. Do you want me to?
I did that for
We did it for our lunch. Okay, well,
So-
there's also fish sticks in the freezer, and
Yeah, maybe I'll do that.
there's a half piece of organic toast with butter on it,
Okay.
just for something to eat. But
Okay. I was going to stop and get a pizza today because I know you went out, but I didn't do that. 'Cause
Well-
I was telling my friend I was gonna go do that, and then next thing I do, I look up and it's like 6:20.
Oh yeah. Well, make yourself one of those cheese sandwiches again.
Okay.
Go for it. Yeah.
Oh, maybe, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and I just bought all the new Finlandia cheese, so help yourself.
Okay.
Or there's some of that sharp cheddar if you really want a really good one. Use the rest of that sharp cheddar on a chilled grilled cheese sandwich. You'll have a really tasty sandwich. Yeah. You scumbag. I normally make great meals, but today I ate out, so it's kind of nice to do something different, you know. Yeah, and see, Misanthropy, that's his favorite thing to eat is. So yeah, so now we have proof that there's total collusion all the way to the top. The people involved, Robert Mueller, we had an eyewitness over in our room, guest 232, said that he worked for Mueller, and he was just elated about all the money he was making. It was kind of weird. No, I don't use spit in my hair, but I will use a smoothing technique using this apparatus, which I believe they call a hand. Yeah, the guy, no, it's for real. Yeah, he's on the internet. It has to be true. No, he worked for Mueller, and he said that Mueller was running around like a guy who just, you know, got a big prize, and he was bragging about all the money he was making. Yeah, that's pretty obvious. Mueller threw it. If Mueller had any kind of a effort, it would have been obvious. He would have had a subpoena for Donald Trump's tax returns, which he never did. But yeah, so let me read this out here. I should go a little faster because you can read faster. Sessions, Page, Papadopoulos, Carter Page, Papadopoulos, Paul Manafort, Michael Flynn, Roger Stone, Michael Cohen, Jared Kushner, and Donald Jr. are all Trump associates that met with Russians. But there was no collusion? Yeah. Think about it. It's sad what people will do for money. They'll sell their country out under the ship. Mueller's already, like I said, Mueller already signed off on the 9/11 Commission report when there's obvious evidence of a demolition. Was that traumatizing? I'm sorry. I wasn't trying to make fun of you. Let's go slowly. Some of you don't know how to read, so let's slow it down. I'll put it at a snail's pace. There we go. Carter Page, Papadopoulos, Paul Manafort, Michael Flynn, Roger Stone, Michael Cohen, Jared Kushner, and Donald Jr. are all Trump associates. That met with Russians. Now, Donald Trump Jr. flipped his testimony from "I'm meeting for the adoption of Russian children" to "I'm looking for emails on Hillary." So there's no collusion, according. So this is a huge cover-up at the highest level, and if you have to really get to the bottom of it, you're going to have to come to the understanding that I've come to. Unfortunately, there's no other clear explanation for what's happening. The two parties are bought off, and all the people, the checks and balances in the country are mostly bought off. Even the people in the Supreme Court. I was the one that originated the idea of impeaching every one of them. We could even drop the Supreme Court down to 9 people. They're talking about, the Republicans are talking about, maybe even 7. I was the one that talked about impeaching them, and now Beto O'Rourke is saying he's going to switch out 5 of them. Impeach them. So all these ideas are still on the table. There is no check and balance in our government. We've lost that. Lobbyists have far too much power, and I've got a solution to fix that. And that would be a flat tax. A flat tax would stop this lobbyist power. Now, the flat tax we're proposing is 10% on anything over $50,000 in income. And that would apply to churches as well, corporations, foreign investors, So 10% on over 50,000. That means you'd have tax-free under 50,000 in income. Who would you trust to handle the collusion case? At this point, nobody. I mean, the government's completely contaminated with Ashkenazis. They've already embedded themselves in our country back in the 1940s. When we won the war, the Nazis moved in. Operation Paperclip established their presence here. They're here. They're all around us. There is only one way out, a third party. I can limit access to the government by people like that, but I'm not going to turn them away completely. I want everybody to have a place at the table. I don't hate Ashkenazis. I hate greed, extreme greed. And what's happened is extreme greed is nesting in our government. When Donald Trump said he was going to get rid of the swamp, he really meant he's going to install a snake pit. It's not, we're worse than a swamp now. I'll take the swamp over a snake pit. It's not a wig, but thank you. Fists of goodness. Dave, I have Ashkenazi relatives, and I resent you talking about them and their shape-shifting thieves. You know, I know, and I'm not trying to say your Ashkenazi relatives are greedy, Electric Paisley. I'm not. Nor am I trying to tell you that they're Jewish, because they're not. They're not related to Abraham. But they want to be Jews because they like the money. Yeah, who wouldn't? I mean, look at the Rothschilds. They liked being close to the Jews, the Jewish royalty, so much that they actually became court Jews. And they became the handlers of the finances of the Jewish royalty in the 1500s. And now they're the richest family in the world. And they were lowly Bauers at the time. German Bauers, that's what they were. I'm not. You can't possibly expect me to allow you in the room. Yeah, these Bauers were so into money and so good at making money by stealing it from people, and basically usurious charges for lending money to people, that they became super wealthy. And in about 1500 AD, they split their wealth among 5 sons, and the end result is many of them are in the trillions. And the combined wealth of the family would be close to $200 trillion. And these are the people that created Israel. These are the people that financed Hitler, too. And Hitler was an Ashkenazi. Let's not forget that. You're telling me all the Ashkenazis that Hitler was with? Yeah, there was Mueller. He's an Ashkenazi, just like we have Mueller. Mueller was the architect of the concentration camps in Germany. And then there was also Himmler and Goering. All these were Ashkenazis. You're telling me that the word Nazi came from some acronym of National Socialism? I don't think so. No. They were all Ashkenazis and everyone knew it. They were seizing power and trying to stop the very people that made them powerful, the Jews.
His Majesty's government view with favour the establishment of Palestine as a national home for the Jewish people, and will use their best endeavours to facilitate the achievement of this object, it being clearly understood that nothing shall be done which may prejudice the civil and religious rights of existing non-Jewish communities in Palestine, or the rights and political status enjoyed by Jews in any other country. I should be grateful if you would bring this declaration to the knowledge of the Zionist Federation. Yours, Arthur Balfour.
And here it is, the Balfour Declaration.
So Lord Rothschild created the State of Israel, and he wanted everyone to know he's a Zionist. These are unashamed, unabashed Zionist people. I've met a lot of them. I have a guy in my neighborhood that runs a big store. He's an outright Zionist. He's proud to be a Zionist. They'll come out of the closet if you ask them. Go ahead, say, are you a Zionist? They'll say, yeah. Now we need to get a discussion going as to why they have total control of our country. That's the problem. Juicy is working for the Illuminati. They flipped him. Yeah, Juicy's working for the Illuminati, and it's pretty obvious that they had the whole case struck, and Juicy claims his $3,500 check he wrote these 2 thugs is for training and nutrition. What a crock of crap. Unless, of course, you're eating a crock of crap for training and nutrition. Here's a crock of crap for training and nutrition. Yeah, he's a scumbag for doing it in the first place, and then it's even scummier when they buy him off. He's so powerful. They just bought him off. Even Rahm Emanuel raised a stink. That's the sign that something is up. You know? When Rahm Emanuel talks crap about somebody, you know something's up. Now, Rahm Emanuel is an Ashkenazi and he's partly Israeli. I don't hate Rahm Emanuel. I don't hate Ashkenazis either. And somebody said, Dave, did it ever occur to you that you might be Ashkenazi? Yeah. I don't have to be in the Nazi party never formed under the ideal of a Nazi, the word Nazi. It was a National Socialist party that was formed, not a Nazi party. The word Nazi was considered slang for Ashkenazi at the time, and anyone who was called a Nazi it was derogatory. And the Nazis don't even like it. You try, or don't do this, but if you go to any city in Germany and say the word Nazi at the airport, you'll be arrested. It's a hate crime to call a person a Nazi in Germany right now. This is Juicy when he was a kid. Yeah, I mean, whatever. I mean, do I really care? And just because I look just like Juicy doesn't mean you have to make a big deal about it, you know. I'm like a white version of Juicy. Kind of sad, isn't it? Oh, there I am. Yep, there we go. He could be my son. You know, if I was married to a black woman, I could have a son like Juicy. I look like David Caruso, really. I think I look like a lot of people. Yeah, I'm morphed into almost anybody. I could look like Ellen DeGeneres. I could look like Brienne of Tarth on Game of Thrones. I could look like anybody. I could even look like Juicy Smollett. I believe I could. With a little blackface, I'd look just like the guy. No, Ashkenazi is the long word for the origin of the word Nazi. You just never figured it out. It took a mind of my power to understand the simplistic nature of linguistics and analyze the trends in human society. Most people don't truncate a word that sounds like an acronym, but not really. Because when you look at the sound of the word, the German word, national, it doesn't sound like Nazi. You take the word national in German and you play the word
National.
National. Natsu. Not Nazi.
National.
National. Not Nazi. I know German. And Nazi doesn't sound like National. Sorry. Ja, das ist nicht richtig. Aber dieses Kleid is 200 Marks besalten. I will not pay that. What I'm trying to get to here is not to attack Ashkenazis, and I know Electric Paisley, you don't want to. Oh, really? You're going to binge watch Game of Thrones? I am not even on top of Game of Thrones. I've never seen it. It's one of those things that I'm waiting to, get sick and sit in the bed for I can't leave these. When I start watching these, I'm like glued to the TV screen for 10 hours. Yeah, it's just like once you get into a really good show, you start to realize that, there's no way you can possibly break from it. Beep. So putting my face under Brienne of Tarth and saying, well, yeah, I kind of look like her. I could theoretically look like her. With the right makeup, I could probably, look identical to her. But she's a woman. I'm a man. And this is not an LGBTQ rap session. I just want everyone to know that I'm here to talk about politics, not Brienne of Tarth. Nor my role in the movie, which I find very important. Thank you so much for allowing me to morph into you, David. So nice to be here. Oh, thank you. Anyone have any political questions? We'll address those. I normally don't ask that, but tonight's Truth Tuesday, and we know that the 9/11 Commission report was bogus and completely rigged by Robert Mueller. So we know now that total collusion is riggable by Robert Mueller. A 10% tax, flat tax on over $50,000 will eliminate tax credits and deductions, which will take the power of lobbyists away. Right now, lobbyists use tax credits and deductions as a primary tool in our progressive tax code. You know, when John F. Kennedy was president, you know, the guy that said, "Ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country." That guy actually had a 90% tax on wealthy people. Isn't that amazing? I don't need a tailor. My shirt and jacket are perfectly fine. I told you that. The cost of college is way too much. And if you go to college, one of those colleges that Betsy DeVos wants you to go to, you'll have to pay no matter what. Even if they screw you out of a certification or say they're not accredited, you'll still have to pay. That's what Betsy DeVos is fighting for. You know, the woman that bribed Donald Trump with $9.5 million to become our Secretary of Education? Unbelievable. Well, college is a scam, but it's the only way you can be like Sarah and make money. She's like a perfect example of a person who works hard and saving money and doing well. And you know why Sarah's doing really well? Aside from the fact that I give her 100% of my time and support, she is made a commitment to her future. She actually said, I better do this. Now, I'm not married to her. But she made that commitment. She said, I'm going to do this no matter what. And you have not, I couldn't even describe all the things that she's gone through because she'd have to describe them. But she's been through a lot to get to where she is. Well, I gave her the backup of having a really nice home and a comfortable life, and I clean and I cook, and I'm not like a guy who says, you better, give me some babies, or, it's like, I'm not laying a trip on her. And she doesn't want kids, neither do I. I don't want to bring kids into this world. It sucks, frankly. Well, I have a really clear view and vision for people, and I kind of, when I see somebody, and I saw Sarah as needing a kind of a support that I didn't get when I went to college, I was there. I will definitely give you airdrops of condoms in poor areas. Yes. All the condoms we can possibly distribute will be readily available with a touch of a button. If there's a need for condoms at Planned Parenthood, we'll put a kiosk together 24/7. You shouldn't have to wait for a condom at, wake up 8, 9 in the morning when Planned Parenthood opens up to get to that bowl with condoms. Because chances are you're going to have sex in the meantime and have a baby. Yeah, well, if you're a single mother, you're really, you're facing a whole lot of other, to pull off raising a child, that in and of itself is a huge task, let alone going to college and doing that. So I can see why single mothers don't go to college, and it affects their long-term life and how they view themselves. It's not that they don't have the abilities or intelligence. Most people could pull off college. It's not that big of a deal. There's a lot of ups and downs, but you don't need to be perfect. You can get B's and C's and still graduate from college. That's what a lot of people have done. It's one of my problems was I was a straight A student in high school and the number one in my class. And when I got to college, it was party time, and I had never had a social life. And man, that was one heck of a social life. 1 year at UCLA, it really took me off track in terms of academics. But it was a big problem. I couldn't get funding to go to the second year or the third year. And because I'm white, I'm a victim of affirmative action. So there's a lot of reasons I could construct in my mind, but really I didn't want to be told what to do by professors that were preaching Marxism. It was a very big problem for me. I could not stand being told what Marxists were telling me was... I had one professor who said that East Germany was the greatest country in the world. And this is right before the wall fell down. 2 years before the, Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall. Before that happened. So, yeah, I mean, he literally thought that East Germany was the greatest country in the world. I said, what is wrong with you? You're using a platform for public policy to espouse your Marxist views. You're a piece of shh. Yeah, I mean, I couldn't help but look at this guy and go, I took him to the department head and said, you can't do this. The department head at the university said, no, he can do it. And it happened at UCLA and it happened at other universities. So they kept insisting their Marxist professors were perfectly entitled to program us into Marxism. I said, no way, no way, I'm building a brand new plan for America. I'm not going to sit there and listen to it be indoctrinated by somebody who's reciting somebody who's been buried over 100 years. Now, this is the deal. Marxist thinking never accommodated for an internet. Marxist thinking never accommodated for the idea that powerful structures of monarchies continue to recycle throughout the feudalistic economies and continue to sprout up. Marxism never accommodates for a phenomenon called liquidity traps, which are centers where money sucked, like holes, vortexes, black holes where money sucked into the budget or out of the budget. Liquidity traps are right now sucking our country dry. And most of the people making money have already got tons of it already. They're just in power, they're in place. They run companies like Raytheon and Lockheed Martin and Boeing, and they got all the money they could ever want, and they keep getting more. Because the system is now locked in place, where corporations get all the money and the average people get nothing. And the idea of a socialist leader, if they implement that, would ultimately be overtaking the rights of the individual, and it would probably force all of us to be vaccinated, RFID chipped, and if we didn't meet a social credit score, we're all going to be sent to jail for re-education. We have a guy that's running right now, this guy Yang. He's that kind of a socialist. He believes that we should convert everyone to social credit like they're using in China. Scary. And the Democratic Party is being hijacked by people like Yang and Beto O'Rourke, and also, of course, Ocasio-Cortez. And this has created a power vacuum between Nancy Pelosi and this far left group, which is clearly taking advantage of the weakness at the top of the Democratic Party. People that just won't give up power, and they don't want anyone to give up power. The immune juicy syndrome. Well, I said this earlier, the juicy syndrome is all a complete diversion. Yeah, the juicy syndrome really is all about what happened in the news that week. They needed a juicy story, and they got one. The Houston PD admitted they lied about a raid that killed an innocent couple. That was never seen in the news. A BBC producer revealed the hospital scene was staged after the Doma sarin attack. That was never revealed. We never had an open discussion in political sense about fakery going on regarding Syria. The beef industry now is backing bills to ban the sale of plant-based meats. That's screwed for people who are going vegetarian. The report found a record-breaking $5.7 billion was spent on the midterm elections, which is shocking. Now back to your regular scheduled brainwashing. So Juicy's effectively taken our mind off of things like thinking.
Hey everybody, I just made a couple notes. First of all, I want to thank my family, my friends, the incredible people of Chicago and all over the country and the world who have prayed for me, who have supported me, who've shown me so much love.
Why do you lie, Juicy? Why did you lie? He claims he said the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. He claims the check for $3,500 he wrote a couple thugs was for nutrition and training. I'm wondering what kind of nutrition and training Juicy got for $3,500. I'll tell you what you could do in Chicago right now. With $3,500, you can get a lot of good training and education and nutrition, man. Yeah, let's go to Chicago, shall we, on Craigslist? What do you say? Let's see what $3,500 will buy the average guy. It's a lot of money to pay some people. Exercise equipment. Wow. That's $985. That gets you a complete exercise cycle. That's at the top of the list, man. Let's see what the most expensive. Okay, well that's pretty nice. Swim spa for $15,900. Let's see what $3,500 buys. $3,500 will get you a exercise equipment techno gym. Yeah, look at that. Anyway, they paid him. They got paid for exercise and nutrition. So, isn't that special? I discussed the need for preparing for automated system. We ultimately would have to overhaul the system, but we couldn't do it with a socialist model because that requires a complete removal of the capitalist system. The capitalist system is the heart and blood of our economy. It always has been. For Ocasio-Cortez to say capitalism will end someday is ridiculous. But the reality is socialism usually is corruptible just like communism is. Every single layer of the Marxist model is corruptible by greed. And that was the inherent flaw in the Marxist thinking, that greed corrupts everything. So I build hybrid capitalism around a kind of like a mentality of getting the government to get a return on investment and compete in the free market, which is in no way anything like socialism or communism, where the government takes over the properties and the means by which we make things. In other words, the government takes total control of an industry and doles it out to certain players within that industry. My concept is the government competes in and with industry, like generic pharmaceuticals, where people could get lower cost medicine if the government could partner up with a generic pharmaceutical company and produce really a value-oriented product for people that'll help save lives. There is a market there that people don't have enough money for, and if they spent $20 for $30 for their medication, they'd buy it. But $160, they go without and they get sick and they die. Yeah, nobody wants to die. And they cost a lot for our system to help keep them alive. And it drains their entire family's life savings, including their house. Exactly. A new one for $129. See? You don't need to spend $3,500 on training and exercise or nutrition. You can get it for $129. Introducing the amazing $129 Writer. That's pretty cool. Yeah, that's a nice deal, man. But it's got 2 stars with only one person reporting. Yeah, it's 2 stars usually it's not a good indication of. So Juicy, if you need a little more help, we'll send you over to a $129 Big 5 Sporting Goods Exercycle elliptical trainer, man. Don't be spending no $3,500 on nutrition and training, man. Yeah, you got ripped off, Juicy. You know, I think I look like Juicy, so let's just go there. I knew I had to do this. Let's see what he looks like. I could be, look, I almost have the exact facial dimensions of Juicy. From a strictly analytical perspective, of course. As you can see, my eyes are in the same place his eyes are. My nose is in the same place. My mouth is in the same place. And I'm telling you, brother, I spent a lot on juicy nutrition and training, man. I didn't do it. Whatever you think I did, I didn't do. I mean, I like could be juicy. How do you know I'm not juicy right now doing whiteface? You don't know, do you? Sorry. I proved I'm human. Thank you. I'm always looking for ways to prove that I'm human. This is close to Barack Hussein Obama, so we are likely to get again. Not likely. No, I'm not allowed to do blackface on the show, as you know. That does not compute. But no, there's a lot of reasons why we've been faked on this whole level. I don't mind admitting that we've been faked, you know. You can fake us all they want. I mean, it doesn't hurt us to sit there and go, we're still, in their eyes, brainless idiots who are sheep walking around like a bunch of useless eaters looking for a new fast food restaurant to go to. I don't know. I haven't tried Wendy's lately. I hear they have a really good fish burger. So they got us figured out. They feed us bread and circuses, and they keep us going, and they feed us lies, and they get diversions for when real things are happening. They got this down, man. They worked out all the kinks. They just push crap in front of us, and we all sit there and we're like, I'm too busy working on my video game to learn about this, Mom. It's diversion time. Over diversion. That's what's going on. That's why we have so many things on TV to watch. That's why we have so many shows. And if that doesn't keep you going, you got video games, which are violent and create different sociopathic mentalities. And if that's not working, just drink more fluoridated water with like soda with sugar in it and get pancreatic cancer at a young age and die, and then they take all your money. So there you go. You spend all your life worrying about savings, which you can never cash in on because you're dead by the time you do. And then your family loses everything because you got to pay for $6,000 a day rooms in America. You can't go into a hospital without spending $6,000 a day now. It's unbelievable. It's like they are screwing us, and the Democrats are not going to lower the cost of health care, I assure you. You are really out to lunch there, Melco. I don't know why you come in here, man. I got your number. It's like, well, the thing is, nobody talks about the reality that sugar is extremely dangerous. You can get diabetes or worse. Have your legs cut off from diabetes. Sugar is something you have to pull the brakes on. And in America, you're growing up as kids, all you need is sugar. It's like they make you addicted to sugar. So you got to really consciously tune out of using things like candy, which offer no food value. Way you do it is actually you can still get a little bit of sugar if you go for nutritional food items that have proteins like nuts in them. I definitely think Juicy should go after his attackers who he gave $3,500 to for training and nutrition. He should charge them with the crime of giving poor training and nutrition. Yeah, I mean, really. It just didn't get his money's worth. He needs to go to a small claims court with those two guys and say, I feel that I should never, he had to forfeit $10,000 too, Yeah, potato salad is typically made with a lot of sugar. And if sugar's not going to kill you, they got you with GMO corn syrup. That'll destroy you in a short period of time. You're seriously screwed over physically with a lot of corn syrup. So that's in almost every drink you get, every smoothie at every fast food restaurant, corn syrup. Corn syrup, high fructose corn syrup, genetically modified is in everything. And in that corn syrup are genes of fructose that are in possession of a type of gene called epicite, which has been known to cause sterility in men and women. So they've got that in our water system, our sodas, our beers, corn syrups. Some beers go without corn syrup. If you can get those beers, they're probably better. But again, no beer on the market gets rid of fluoride. Fluoride, a known neurotoxin, is in every single beer on the market, except for a few, like Grolsch doesn't have fluoride. It's made in the Netherlands. Amsterdam has really high standards, so they don't add fluoride. Fluoride applied to our teeth might prevent cavities, but you should rinse it out because it's toxic to our system. Fluoride is slightly worse than arsenic, or slightly worse than lead, and slightly less toxic than arsenic. That's where fluoride is. It's right on the spectrum, slightly worse than lead, and almost as toxic as arsenic. But they're putting in our water. 67% of our water is fluoridated. So it's affecting our intelligence. Studies have shown, studies at Harvard Medical Review showed that fluoride will cause 7 to 20 point drops in your IQ. Fluoride directly onto your teeth might work if you rinse out. It creates kind of a surface protection. there's some studies that show that, but fluoridosis is so common now among kids that their teeth are yellowing or changing color, and it's super bad for your brain. So if you want your kid to do well, you don't want them to be drinking fluoridated water or soda. Ren, you're the only nemesis here. Yeah, the only guy that stands out like a sore thumb, Milka. Everyone else fits right in, but you're the sore thumb. People don't understand that farting is number one sign that you're unhealthy. Really? I didn't know it, but the Illuminati wants to make you think that farting is just natural? Really? I did not know that. Thank you for telling me. Andrew, I recommend a product called Tom's of Maine non-fluoridated. Tom's of Maine makes fluoridated toothpaste too. So there's also a really low-cost one at Trader Joe's called Propolis and Myrrh. No fluoride. And propolis and myrrh happen to be really good anti-carcinogenic things to have in your body. So I use both. I'll use the Tom's of Maine plaque reducer, no fluoride, or I'll use the other one. But you got to look for no fluoride in your toothpaste. Now, kids aren't told this, but if you eat the toothpaste and you think it's like tastes good, your kid's going to potentially get really sick. It's a toxin. You don't want them to eat the toothpaste, especially if it's fluoridated. So, yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'm amazed that many of you haven't been tuned into this, but it's important that I talk about these things because the studies show there are no studies that are out there that show that fluoridated water prevents cavities. There's not one single study ever produced in the world. And a lot of the studies regarding the benefits of fluoride supported by the ADA, the American Dental Association, I've traced those to their source and they don't exist. I actually contacted the University of San Francisco at one point because a doctor had signed off on a study, and I called up the department. They'd never heard of him. So there's a lot of fakery in the fluoride studies. There is. And we've got very little going on in our government to try to check and cross-check information. There's no peer-reviewed studies going on at all on a lot of levels. We just discussed that the 5G network has not been made safe, and they haven't really verified it, checked it to see if it is safe. But they're trying to roll out the 5G network like there was no tomorrow. They can't wait to push this on the American people. It's a sad thing when you think about the kind of profiteering that's going on with the 5G network. And Trump is really behind this. That's why they put Trump in office. Trump is pushing the 5G network, and it's not safe. It hasn't been proven to be safe at all. In fact, 300 birds died recently in The Hague when a mast was constructed and put up there. And it was lit up. The mast killed the birds. They dropped all over the place. Right around the mast. As soon as the electricity hit the mast. So if that isn't a sure sign of corruption, pushing a network like that on the American people, it's ridiculous. And we're just simple people. We don't want anything to be hurting us. We're like cows in the pasture. So this brand of centrist politics is kind of a populist, middle of the road kind of stuff, but we take on tough subjects, at least I do. I take on the toughest subjects, the conspiracy theories. I'll discuss any issue. I don't care what I say if I can back it up with proof. And I can. If I have proof that I can back up and support an argument, I'll bring it up and I'll certainly present it to everybody. So we are dealing with a potential where we can actually spike the media. Building this third party actually creates the alternate view that the media doesn't have right now, and it puts a comfortable centrist movement in the center where we could actually talk about fixing the country as people, not Democrats and Republicans per se. Just trying to solve the issues, looking at it from a conservative viewpoint and a liberal viewpoint, and seeing somewhere in the middle where we can sort that out. Every issue can be dealt with this in the same way. It's not as high, really. My hairdo doesn't get high, Ace Spade. My hair does not smoke pot. Unfortunately for you, if it was a video that started the rumor, it certainly is wrong, because what has happened is the video actually shows the people in The Hague and the birds themselves, and it's in Dutch. So it was not something that was created in India. It's actually a real event that happened in the Netherlands at The Hague by real Dutch people. I can't look at the UHF count. I don't have access to it, nor should I. In order to get people to support a candidate, you can actually launch a campaign yourself supporting me and, you know, printing up signs. We're going to get the 2020 signs out soon, and we're going to get the official 2020 campaign rolling as soon as I apply. I haven't yet to apply, but the thing is, you can start a campaign on your own, finance it with your own costs. If I don't know about it, you can spend unlimited amounts of dollars talking about it. You can also spend unlimited amounts of dollars condemning me and hating this entire movement. If you want to run an anti-America's Third Party campaign, you can do that too, without my knowledge. Absolutely. It only helps me if you do that, though. Feel free. It's already helped me on 4chan. You know, Scissor Fight was saying the other night, why do we get so many, trolls coming in here? What's wrong with these people? We were rolling on 4chan for about 3 or 4 years. We were the talk of the town. So they come in here all the time just to attack us because it's fun. I think I had about 4,000 contacts from homosexual men looking for a fix-up because 4chan kept pushing our website as a dial-up for gay men. And I'd get these people looking for a good time in the show. That happened for about 2 years. Remember that? The guest chat over at Vaughn, all we would get was gay men looking for a hookup in their town. It was the weirdest thing. And that was because 4chan was promoting us. They wanted these people to attack us. Anyway. Okay, this is the story I want to talk about. Architects and engineers for 9/11 Truth have exposed have exposed Robert Mueller and others. But for the first time, 9/11 family members and advocates are taking legal action against the FBI aimed at forcing the Bureau to assess and report the evidence known to the FBI at the World Trade Center. So they are trying to they say there's new evidence to support the claim that there was a demolition. And they're trying to get this thing routed through the proper channels. These people are top architects and engineers. They're not flakes. They've got a lot of money behind this. In 2014, Congress mandated that the FBI form an external commission to conduct an assessment of any evidence not known to the FBI that was not considered by the 9/11 Commission related to any factors that contributed in any manner to the terrorist attacks of September 11, 2001. A year later, the FBI released the Commission's final report, which did not include an assessment of evidence. Thank you. Well, apparently I have to donate to read this. Anyway, I think I'm done with the article. Total collusion. Yes, total collusion. Mueller is controlled by the powerful Zionist elitists, the AIPAC supporters. Yeah, the Russians that back the oligarchs are in cahoots with the Kissingers and all the others here on the Western side, the Ashkenazi groups. That's what's up at play here. It's a total collusion. That's why they rigged the report. That's why Mueller didn't ask for 10 years of tax returns from Donald Trump. That's why Mueller did not even invest one single minute into the Manafort money laundering case. Anyway, getting back to the 5G problem, I wanted to talk about that.
The United States will be the first country in the world to open up high-band spectrum for 5G networks and applications. And that's damn important, because it means that U.S. companies
will profit and make more and more money on a network that hasn't even been tested on human safety. Isn't that great? That you can have your brains fried by this so that corporations can continue to make money. I met that guy at a conference down in Sacramento 10 years ago. I walked right up to him. I had a feeling I needed to talk to this guy. And I asked him a question unrelated to telecommunications. I asked him about oil and why our government acts like we're running out of oil when we've got tons of reserves. And he said, it's a lot more complicated than that. You wouldn't understand. That was the end of our conversation. Yeah, well, high-speed 5G is potentially going to fry our brains. It's already, causing irreparable damage to the 4G network. If you hold a cell phone next to your head, or a cordless phone next to your head, you're getting latent electromagnetic frequency radiation going into your head, and it can alter your DNA. The director of the World Health Organization has said emphatically that holding cell phones contribute to brain cancer. Grand Theft Auto 6 is going to be released in November. Does that mean I can get 5 for $5? I'm looking to get Grand Theft Auto 5 to run on Xbox 360 for $5. I've yet to play 5, so I haven't played since I got kicked off Twitch. It's been a long time. A couple of years since they banned me over there. But the 5G network is a big deal for American corporations, so that the Americans can make a lot of money. He doesn't give a crap about you. Twitch banned me because they claimed I was a homophobe. Do I look like a homophobe? People who are hitting up on me all the time to try to, what gay people do is they hit up on heterosexual men all the time. That's called sexual harassment. And what happened was I was on Twitch and somebody said, "Hey, are you gay?" I said, "No," and I consider that sexual harassment. They immediately reported me, claiming I was a homophobe. You can be gay all you want, just don't be gay for heterosexual men. It's an atrocity. You don't have the right. I don't know. Jeff Bezos has got a problem with his penis. They have a picture of it at the National Enquirer, and of all the people that have control of his penis picture, David Pecker, the CEO of National Enquirer, has total control over that. I don't know how much money Jeff Bezos has, but he doesn't need to have any money extorted from him. No one deserves that. Well, we do know he has $130 billion. But the fact of the matter is, what is happening with National Enquirer and David Pecker and the picture of Jeff Bezos' penis, it could be as big as the story of Michael Avenatti and Nike and the $25 million he's allegedly extorted. He's out on bail. Somebody must have, forked over some cash for him, but that guy's into some deep stuff, Avenatti. Well, apparently I wasn't gay enough for Twitch, right? Because I'm not gay. No, but I think what Capital Gain and Mark are doing is they're in cahoots. And I'm going to be applying the racketeering laws once we find out exactly which felony is being violated. How are they committing a felony? If I can prove they're committing a felony by doing this, I can then use the racketeering laws to put together a case. But I'll have to be president at that time. I doubt a civilian could do anything. So I need to be able to issue a demand from the office of the president to initiate this investigation. But I do know that the censorship has been great. And what happened at Mark's, you probably all know that T. Rucker went on camera, I think yesterday, and I think tonight too. He didn't die. And then Mark had vouched for him, saying that he did die, and said he was really, really sad. And now Mark is looking like, flipping all over the place, like a fish out of water. But T. Rucker is very much alive, and like we said all along, he faked his death for the third time. Now, why would he fake his death? Because he got a lot of money for doxing us, and he knew full well that I will pursue felony charges against him and extradite him from Canada. The day will come when that happens. He was so worried about it, he faked his death, and now that Mueller has ruled in favor of Donald Trump, they all feel empowered, so he decided to go on camera and pretend like he's alive again, which he is. You see, they believe that I'm basically no power and completely, unable to do anything. They are convinced of that. And they may be right. They may actually, the American people have been nullified so much that maybe we don't have the power to do anything. It's possible. But then again, maybe they're wrong too. And that this will come to haunt them, all of them. I have lost a tremendous amount of or not me personally, but our efforts have lost a lot of donations because of what has been happening at Bonn. People from all around the world, and especially U.S. citizens, can't even get into this show unless you've been grandfathered in. And the people that I've logged, there's only about 500 people in the network, so it's not that big of a network. But they've systematically put all of us into separate stalls, if you will. Twitch is off limits to me. It's the only other viable network I can go to do a broadcast. So now I'm kind of being stuck here. There's nothing I can do. You could go to all the old networks, stream up. They turned into a music site. So there's a lot of things that we can try to do, Tiny Chat, these kinds of things. But and we've even explored some really weird sites too. But none of them actually have the ability to get bigger and bigger. There is such a clamp on the media and shared information, especially on YouTube. And the YouTube live shows are keeping us down. We were gang stalked over there by the Lot Lizard clan. Anita, you weren't in the show last night. Yeah. No, you haven't seen him in the show. He was in his own show last night. Dave, you beat up a cop. Am I going to jail for a while? If they know who you are, yeah. Yeah. Now, there are people that beat up cops on the side that somehow get away and they never find them. That's really a crime to do that. You can't beat up a cop and get away with it. So your best bet is you got to turn yourself in and hope for leniency. T. Rucker is, yeah, he's here. You're charged with assaulting a police officer. You're not going to be able to, yeah, it's a 5-year prison sentence. You're not going to be able to, deal with that. I don't know if it is a 5-year prison sentence. You have to talk to an attorney, but don't scare him like that. But yeah, you're going to have to face the music. You can't assault a police officer. What were you thinking? Well, Anita, no. All things aside, you've been a little sidetracked lately with your personal health issues. So, well, then I guess you're just going to have to live on the run like the fugitive. There are people that live on the run. They go from city to city and they take on identities. I wouldn't recommend it because you'll be living in fear the rest of your life. Yeah. Your friend broke a 40-ouncer over a cop's head, but he got away with it because he's Native American. Wow, that's pretty weird. He's a tribal guy. He had tribal connections. Well, our Freedom Friday show, we talk about police brutality. It's pretty bad. Cops are on average 1,200 cops die, or 1,200 people die by cop every year in America, on average. And of those 1,200, more than half of them were unarmed. So there's something very wrong with our system, and Trump isn't solving anything by encouraging them. Well, it comes down to people who are resistant to cops will eventually, have to face the music. What is the old saying, live by the sword, die by the sword? It applies. I know. Well, everybody's human, and if you do that and you try to, get away with it, you've gone down a very dark road, and there's no coming back. Yeah, once you go down that road, I mean, you have taken a turn for the worse. So if you don't face the music and deal with it, then maybe you should find a new path. There's the countries that you could move to that, would, provide you a safe haven, I suppose. I'm not encouraging you to do that, but that's the only way around this. You're painting the lady of the lake picture, well, a sea picture and a sword. Wow, Anita, you're into some heavy stuff. The guy was on crack and he basically hit the cop and then ran away. Wow. Well, a lot of good stories to hear about. It was fun. Okay. This past week, Trump nominated Stephen Moore, a famous idiot, to be on the Federal Reserve Board. So our country's kind of off in la la land. We got this guy who's, he doesn't even make sense. Stephen Moore's career as an economic analyst has been a decades-long continuous procession of error and hackery. It's not despite, but precisely because of these errors, that Moore now finds himself at the astonishing position of having been offered a position on the Federal Reserve Board by President Trump. Moore's primary area of pseudo-experience, he's not an economist, is fiscal policy. He's a dedicated advocate of supply-side economics, relentlessly promoting his fanatical hatred of redistribution and belief that lower taxes for the rich man can and will unleash wondrous prosperity. Like nearly all supply-siders, he's clung to this dogma in the face of repeated spectacular failures. Now, back in the 1980s, Ronald Reagan had supply-side economics. They called it Reaganomics, in which the trickle-down plan worked for so many people who work in a corporate environment. You were allowed to clean the diarrhea off their legs. Pretty much, you don't get anything. The trickle-down economic plan never worked. Reaganomics never worked. And corporations, when they make profits, usually invest those profits in foreign governments or their own company. Now, in the recent months, we've seen 2 passages of tax cuts for the rich by the Trump, and the House was led by the Republicans. They managed to put together a $5.5 trillion tax break for the rich over 10 years. So our economy will be running really lean over the next 10 years. That's why Trump's budget is involving a 15-year plan to get us down and reduce our deficit, which isn't going to work. He cut us off at the pass by cutting off all our income from rich people. Yeah. Total collusion, Anita. The Mueller report, Mueller was colluding as well. Mueller is colluding as well. Mueller is colluding, and so is Bob Barr, or Bill Barr. William Barr, he wrote a 19-page letter defending Michael Flynn to Rod Rosenstein. That implicates William Barr in every way. William Barr is obviously working for the Russians, and so is Robert Mueller. But we're not talking about just any Russians. We're talking about people who are really, really rich oligarchs, Zionists, people that have a lot of money. Okay, get out of here. So if you're of the belief that there was no collusion, though, then you probably should jump off this ship, because we're on the way toward the future, and you guys are going to be falling into the corners of the FEMA camp where you'll get zip-tied and sent to the gas chambers. Meanwhile, we'll be building this third party despite all odds. Go ahead and continue voting Republican and Democrat all you want. Doesn't matter to me. I mean, I could care less. Really. You'll see what was going to transpire. I'm just here to tell you what's coming. I could like to lead you out of this hellhole, but a lot of you people don't realize that you're sheep, and you become sheep. But we're here to remind you that every night. Some of you are enlightened sheep, which is good. But the sheep have ostensibly taken over our country's political system. And they're not even making decisions. They're just going around going, bah. We have a lot of people online that talk about, what they think is the truth. Truth Tuesday tries to focus on what really is the truth.
Starting back in the Ford and Nixon administrations were two aspiring White House staff advisors named Dick and Don, who worked, among other things, on a highly classified top-secret program called Continuity of Government, or COG, which developed government contingency plans to protect and preserve the executive branch of government in the face of any imaginable threat or event. Literally, their job was to sit on these think tanks with a panel of military geniuses and dream up the worst possible doomsday scenarios imaginable, and then gather detailed intelligence on how the mechanisms within government would protect the president and vice president in the event of such scenarios. These scenarios included things like nuclear bombs exploding in the hearts of major U.S. cities, foreign land, air, and sea invasions, domestic terrorism, and airplane hijackings with every imaginable end scenario they could possibly think of. By the time Dick Cheney and Donald Rumsfeld took over the White House in early 2001, they would both possess 3 decades worth of expert knowledge on the entire U.S. defense system, including a large range of defense planning scenarios, as well as the entire repertoire of military and radar defense systems. That type of intelligence would be extremely dangerous if placed in the wrong hands, and there is good reason to believe that it was placed in the wrong hands. Both Dick and Don were also members of another think tank called the Project for the New American Century, or PNAC, which consisted of neoconservatives and military-industrial complex bigwigs. Prior to 9/11, PNAC published a document called Rebuilding America's Defenses, which outlined a 100-year plan of massive military expansion and empire building worldwide. The authors wrote that the process of transformation is likely to be a long one, absent some catastrophic and catalyzing event, like a new Pearl Harbor. In early 2001, this group of well-connected insiders were looking for an event. They understood that the best way to get people to go to war is to convince them that they are under attack and then rally them against a common enemy. The Cold War had ended, so the arms market was flat, and with no real threat or enemy, the military-industrial complex was at an all-time lull. Although the public reacted with shock and fear when 9/11 happened, the reaction in the financial world was much different. It was business as usual, and a lot of industry insiders were actually quite pleased. 15 years later, and trillions have now been made off the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, Dick Cheney's Halliburton alone raked in $69 billion from the wars created by 9/11, while Donald Rumsfeld and his friends and business associates made their own fortunes in defense and counterterrorism investments.
Okay, I think you get the picture. That's the collusion we're looking at. The same nexus of people that have been controlling our economy and guiding it toward military spending. You know, it's no lie that the money keeps coming, flows from Obama to Trump. Obama authorized $692 billion. Trump authorized over $715 billion for the military. So they've got this big plan where they create events like 9/11, and then automatically have to start wars to cover the costs, and that fuels the economy, and their economy. They profit from all these weapons of mass destruction. So that's what's going on, and the total collusion package is part of that. They wanted Trump in there because Trump supports things like the 5G network and weaponization, big military supporter. They're not going to let that go away. But the people that are running our government now are so powerful, they can also run the Russian government too. So in their mind, they think that there will be no anger or dissension between Russia and the U.S. because they run both governments, and they see this as a big plus. It's a new world order that they're creating. Yeah, so they're selling people on the idea that they control everything. Well, they don't. Actually, they're just profiting from everything. Anything can happen. A rogue nation can fly off in different directions, blow nukes in different directions at any time. They don't control the whole picture, but they think they do. And there's nothing worse than people who believe that they're intelligent and then run around controlling people with money. That's what we're dealing with here. So they have a strong, entrenched existence in our government. This is the circle of people that are untouchable. And they're the ones behind the 9/11 attack. They're the ones that covered it up. They're the ones that are insiders behind it, and they were the key players. Donald Rumsfeld, even before 9/11, one day before, he said that the Pentagon was missing $2.3 trillion. He never spoke again about it. The new XSplit, it's current, my XSplit is. it's also dysfunctional. XSplit got worse over time. There was a release of XSplit 2 years ago that was outstanding, and I have it on one computer. I don't have it on this one, and they won't let me have access to the old release. But they dumbed down their text features, and they don't even have, text can't even do fades in and fades out anymore. So when I take Total Collusion and add a fade, it won't work. It doesn't work at all. So I've got a computer on in the other room that actually really it blazes. XSplit works great. I use it for making little stingers and things. Okay. Juicy Smollett wants $1 million minimum for an interview. Yeah, there you go. That's exactly what he's up to. He's trying to profit from all of this. And now that he has no charges, the Juicy Smollett story will now become an international event. They're going to always ask him, did you do it? And he said, no, I just bought nutrition and training from these two thugs. Total collusion is you have to look at the big picture. Like I said, Mueller did not get 10 years of tax returns from Donald Trump, which is a gross error. He did not pursue the second case against Paul Manafort regarding money laundering with Russian oligarchs. That's judicial malfeasance. And he could be charged with the crime too, Mueller. He overlooked the entire Seth Rich case and the source of the WikiLeaks. And he's vilified Roger Stone and made him like a bad guy. And I really don't even see Roger Stone as being a player, just a guy looking at everything, gathering information. So the very fact that he won't pursue the Awan brothers, Seth Rich's death, Sean Lucas's death, he doesn't want to investigate anything. There's the death of the guy who revealed all the information about Marco Rubio. And yeah, remember that? They found out Marco Rubio was was part of a group of homosexual men in college, and that ruined Marco Rubio's chance to become president. You remember that? Well, the guy that found that information out died a week later of a suspicious death. That needed to be investigated too. Yeah. And Ted Cruz, that's the same guy that found out that Ted Cruz's father was at the JFK assassination. Now, I can't even find that story anymore, and I can't even find the story of his death. It's gone, scrubbed from the internet. The key person in uprooting Marco Rubio and Ted Cruz's chances for the presidency, the key guy died, and the story has been scrubbed. There's no name. I mean, I can't even find it anymore. So we've got all kinds of collusion, total collusion at all levels. The government has completely overtaken by Zionists. Now, like I said last night, these people are embedded. You're telling me that all these people working for Donald Trump met with the Russians and there's no collusion? Jeff Sessions, who committed perjury and lied about meeting with Kislyak, said he didn't meet with him, did, never charged with perjury. Carter Page, who was told by the FBI that the Russians were recruiting him, he still went out there and visited him on Trump's request. Papadopoulos, Paul Manafort, never was investigated beyond a certain point. Michael Flynn was found to be a Russian agent, and William Barr even wrote a letter in favor of him, defending him. That's total collusion. Jared Kushner offered to get a line of access to the Kremlin that was secret. Donald Jr.'s testimony flipped when he met the lawyer from Russia that wanted to end sanctions. All of this. How can this not be collusion? And how can it not be obstruction when he literally fired the guy who was investigating him in the Russian involvement to end the investigation and to go ahead and brag to the Russians? The next day, he brought the Russians in secretly with the TASS news service and videotaped it. We don't even know what that video said. Mueller never even went after the videotape that Donald Trump made with two Russians the day after he fired James Comey. Gross judicial malfeasance. I actually thought that he should have fired Comey at a later date for another reason. You see, if Donald Trump had been playing by the rules, he would have recognized that Comey had actually rigged the election in favor of him by turning around and claiming that Hillary Clinton was going to be investigated 11 days prior to the election, that a criminal investigation was opening up. James Comey's answer is that he knew somehow magically that Hillary Clinton was going to win and that it wouldn't matter. That's the most mindless statement anyone has ever made in front of a Senate subcommittee in the history of our government. James Comey should be fired for incompetence at the very least, but the thing is, Trump specifically said he fired him to end the investigation. That's complete obstruction. Complete and utter obstruction. How could you not say that's obstruction? That's by definition obstruction of justice. So the fact these people are using the mindlessness of our society to skate past you with their all their judicial statements and wrapping everything up. Even the Jussie Smollett case is sealed, by the way. You cannot find any information on it. It's a sealed case. Why are they sealing a case where Jussie Smollett's talking about something, claiming that he didn't do it and then did do it? It's more than obvious he did do it. Why are they covering it up? Gun confiscation show. Okay, let's take a look at that. I keep getting it. I'm going to have to sort this out. Here it is. A gun confiscation bill is being pushed forward. No doubt Trump will support this. Remember, your gun rights are going to be attacked with Trump as your president. He's going to start working on people with PTSD and take their gun rights away. Extreme Risk Protection Order and Violence Prevention Act of 2019. Here it is. Marco Rubio's put it together. Gun control from the Republicans, folks. Speaking of the sodomite Marco Rubio, he's still being utilized. They're pitching gun control. No kidding. It's new tools to prevent gun violence. Anyone with extreme risk protection. This orders each state and Indian tribe to enact extreme risk prevention order legislation. Here we go. The slippery gun control maneuver. Thank you, Cesar Fiat. Yeah. Now, Rahm Emanuel, I normally don't quote him, but he's even saying this is a whitewash of justice for Jussie Smollett to get off. And ironically, this fits perfectly with the word total collusion up here, because we're dealing with total corruption at every level for him to get off on all charges, even though it's obvious that he paid these guys $3,500 to do it. Hey, let's interrupt this for another link. China's first clone police dog. Wow. Ready for training. There he is. Just like Dolly the sheep, this dog was cloned. That's nice. As training such a dog takes 4 to 5 years and costs $500,000 won, the idea of cloning was suggested. It should learn these tricks a lot easier when you clone the dog. Police dogs start training 75 days after they're born. Oh, goody for them. Okay, thanks for that. But we got a serious story. Jussie Smollett, a whitewash of justice.
I want you to know that not for a moment was it in vain. I've been truthful and consistent on every single level since day one. I would not be my mother's son if I was capable of one drop of what I have been accused of. This has been an incredibly difficult time, honestly one of the worst of my entire life. But I am a man of faith, and I'm a man that has knowledge of my history, and I would not bring my family, our lives, or the movement through a fire like this. I just wouldn't. So I want to thank my legal counsel from the bottom of my heart.
Whatever, man. I don't believe a word he says. Not a word. This story is interesting. George Conway said in an op-ed piece, if Mueller doesn't report, doesn't exonerate Trump, it must include some pretty damning stuff. They're sealing the Mueller report because they don't want anyone to know all the truth about the president. And George Conway is the one guy, the wife of Kellyanne, or the husband of Kellyanne Conway, sorry, George Conway is actually the one guy close to the president, just through knowing Kellyanne, that making a difference. He's getting some teleplay. Right. Vladimir Putin singing Blueberry Hill. I'll play that later. It'll be a big... I'm not going to ban her, but I got the link, Anita. And he says Donald Trump is manifestly unfit for office. He writes that it was always virtually unimaginable that collusion so defined would ever be found. And the ultimate finding on that issue is bound to become a straw man for President Trump and his supporters to knock down with glee. Mueller's report is still unreleased, so we don't know how deep this rabbit hole goes. Yeah. And they're lowering the hammer on your right to bear arms, and they're also pushing for legislation now in New York County, one of the New York counties, just banning anybody who doesn't have a vaccinated kid from public places. All unvaccinated kids from all public places will be banned in Rockland County, New York. After a declared emergency, after 151 people have been diagnosed with measles. But the problem is, the measles vaccine spreads the disease. And a scientist has just gone on record talking about that. We actually have a link to that. Let's play this link. Hang on. Here's Dr. Suzanne Humphreys on measles and shedding.
I've got another study from Croatia, and there were several cases of measles outbreaks occurring in children who had just been vaccinated. And so they looked at the strain. They're having intensive surveillance of measles during this period of time, and so they looked at, with this DNA or genetic fingerprinting, what strains they were, and it was the vaccine strain that they were infected with. So not only did they become sick from measles from the strain that they were vaccinated with, but they were contagious. And this article, the key to this article is that it said that in the past we would have never known this. It would have either been considered a different disease. It would have been contributed, like they would have said it was rubella or something like that. Or they would have considered that it was just a wild-type virus that the person was subsequently infected with before they had a chance to mount an immune response. But because now we have this added surveillance and this new technology that we can distinguish between strains, we're finding that these cases, we used to think that measles, mumps, and rubella vaccines didn't shed and didn't cause disease, but now we're finding that for all three of them, not only is the immune response not what we thought, but that for rubella and measles, at least for sure, I can tell you that those people are shedding virus, have the potential to shed virus and be infective.
All right, so the measles vaccine, the measles vaccine itself can lead to spread of the disease. Yes, so when Trump fired Comey, he said to Lester Holt that he just wanted to end the Russian thing. His testimony, he switched 3 different times that day, but the final statement he said at the end of the day was he just wanted to end the Russian thing. And then the next day he talked to the Russians, and he met secretly, and the TASS news service was secretly meeting with him. We never saw that videotape of Donald Trump meeting with the TASS news service. Why would he meet with the Russians if he wasn't colluding with them the next day after firing Comey? It's obvious total collusion. Algeria's got some problems evolving. Thanks, Ghost, for making us aware of this. The Algerian army chief opens a path to end the Bouteflika's rule. Thanks for sharing. I don't think this is really something that we should focus on, in that this is a show about America. But after weeks of large street protests, Algeria's army chief of staff called Tuesday for a declaration that the incapacitated 82-year-old president, Abdelaziz Bouteflika, be deemed unfit to rule, appeared to pave the way for an end of his 20 years in power. Well, it's too bad we don't have that ability here to plan a simple check to see if Donald Trump has any dementia, in that he forgets the names of people. Like, he called Tim Cook, Apple CEO, Tim Apple. That's a little weird. And then asked, well, did you say Tim Cook of Apple? He said, oh, yes, I said Tim Cook of Apple. We have the videotape, Donald. You said Tim Apple, okay? It's a little demented there to think that his name is Tim Apple. Whatever, he's bound by, he's 82, he's a wheelchair, he wants another term. There's something wrong with that. Putin sings Blueberry Hill. Yeah, this is not a tribute to Putin, okay? We'll play that later tonight. Thanks.
Or not.
Or not, yeah. But I'll play it at the end of the show. This is not a tribute to Putin here. Are you a Russian supporting Putin who wants us to act accordingly? Otherwise, we'll be prosecuted in Russia.
What I did is I was going to fire Comey. My decision. It was not.
You had made the decision before they came in.
I was going to fire Comey. And in fact, when I decided to just do it, I said to myself, I said, you know, this Russia thing with Trump and Russia is a made-up story. It's an excuse by the Democrats for having lost an election. He's a showboat. He's a grandstander. The FBI has been in turmoil. You know that. I know that. Everybody knows that. You take a look at the FBI a year ago. It was in virtual turmoil less than a year ago. It hasn't recovered from that. A dinner was arranged. I think he asked for the dinner. And he wanted to stay on as the FBI head. And I said, I'll, consider, we'll see what happens. But we had a very nice dinner. And at that time, he told me, you are not under investigation, which I knew anyway. Fire Comey. And in fact, when I just, Comey, my decision, it was not. I was going to fire Comey. My decision. It was not.
You had made the decision before they came in.
I was going to fire Comey. And in fact, when I decided to just do it, I said to myself, I said, you know, this Russia thing with Trump and Russia is a made-up story. It's an excuse by the Democrats.
Okay, so Trump essentially said it was a made-up story that he thinks the Democrats put together, which is his chance for explaining himself, and everyone has a chance to defend themselves, but it's not his right to fire the guy who's investigating him. You can't fire the person who's investigating you regarding the thing that you think is a made-up story. That looks like Trump is clearly guilty of Russian collusion and trying to come up with a way to say he's not by saying it's all a made-up story. And then he summarily fires the guy who's investigating him. That is, by definition, obstruction. Period. There's no equivocating here. All I'm saying is he's using the Russian thing. Let me move you out of the room. He's using the Russian thing, claiming it was a made-up story by the Democrats, which it's not. It's clearly Russian collusion. We saw the collusion throughout the whole process. Jared Kushner tried to get a private conversation with the Kremlin. We know that from the NSA leak. Why are you making an attempt to get a private conversation with the Kremlin without our own NSA listening in? Let me explain something. Donald Trump has had a cell phone, private cell phone in the White House since he became president. For 2 years, the NSA has had no idea who he's talking to every day. Our enemies have a better idea just leeching cell phone transmissions from local hotspots that they create roaming around the White House. Our own NSA doesn't even know what he says on the cell phone. That's how much collusion is going on here. This isn't kind of a case of no collusion. This is a case of total collusion. Total collusion. All right, I'm going to let Sarah take over the show for a bit. But his defense is perfectly fine. You can certainly defend yourself. Every president out there can say it's all a made-up deal. It's all completely made up. But you can't fire the guy investigating you. unless you've got another reason. Other than, it's all a made-up story about Russia. It's all the Russian hoax. That's not enough. You can't fire the guy that's investigating you. That is obstruction of justice. Now, when Mueller doesn't see that as obstruction of justice, that means that he is involved in the same thing, and he's part of the collusion. William Barr wrote a 19-page letter to Rod Rosenstein asking him to not investigate any obstruction. Our own Attorney General months ago wrote this letter to Rod Rosenstein, which is in and of itself obstruction, and should disbar William Barr. He shouldn't even be allowed to practice law for writing that letter in defense of a Russian spy, Michael Flynn, as well. He said, oh, don't investigate Michael Flynn. We find out Michael Flynn was working for Russia all along, 24 days as our national security advisor. And Sally Yates told Donald Trump not to hire Michael Flynn because he's working for Russia. What did Donald Trump do? He hired Michael Flynn for 24 days with his hands on our top secrets, and the NSA can't even listen in on any of these phone calls Trump makes. We're dealing with a country already under the control of Russian oligarchs right now. And this proves it, with Mueller saying there's no obstruction when clearly it was obstruction all the way. The council has done nothing. They've advanced nothing. Like I said, they didn't even get 10 years of tax returns. And supposedly Giuliani said it cost $30 million for Robert Mueller. He may be right. Fox is going with that story. He may be right. Hang on, I got another one. He's flying. He just can't seem to stop. So the reality is we're sitting on a country that is now in control. The control has been put in the hands of Russian oligarchs at this point. And they are in collusion with the Zionist elitists in our country who rig our elections. So if you want to think out of the box for a second, imagine how easy it is for them to manipulate us into gun control. Well, case in point, gun control. We've got a entire gun control bill being assembled by Marco Rubio right now, which will take away guns of anybody suffering from PTSD. This is a Republican-led bill.
Wait, that's bizarre because considering a statistic I just read is that children that grow up in poverty, 1/3 of the children that grow up in poverty suffer from PTSD, which is more than the more than the number of military members that suffer from PTSD.
There you go. And if they make that possible, your kid who's got diagnosis of ADHD or ADD or something will never be able to own a gun if Donald Trump and Marco Rubio get their way. You NRA people were sucked into a very bad place by supporting Trump. Now, mysterious syndrome makes users violently ill, starting to worry doctors, from people who smoke marijuana. It's not a mystery to me. I know all about this. This is a byproduct of cyanide. A certain type of pesticide is being used in the production of marijuana that is perfectly safe for food consumption, but when heated, converts to cyanide. This is not a mystery at all. People already know about this, but their government's doing nothing to prevent this type of moldicide from being used. So if you're buying a marijuana in a recreational state, you want to find stuff that's sun-grown. That's your best solution. Sun-grown is better than grown in a greenhouse because greenhouses tend to have lots of mold. No, I haven't lost the fight at all. We're trying to build a third party here. I don't think you understand what we're doing. Apparently, you're so weakened by the two-party system that you don't have a mind of your own. Right. It's like you're a sheep who's just being told you can go into the slaughterhouse 1 or slaughterhouse 2, and you think you have a choice. I mean, your vote matters, but for you to just align with the left or right makes me think you don't even have a mind. You're like a farm animal just being herded.
My question, Shannon, is how can you see the stars if it's so well lit?
All right, we're going to remove you from the show. You're not invited here. Yeah, anybody who's espousing another third party, get the hell out of here. Thank you.
Yes, we are America's third party. Darn it.
I got it. Happens all the time.
That's what it is. America's third party.
Yeah.
Well, Ghost of Shannon said, how was the White House so lit at night? And my question was, how do you see the stars when something's so well lit? Because you can't see the stars in the city.
It's true.
It's just all green screen effects, thankfully. Yes, of course, David does say, oh, Sarah's coming on. Now let's launch into a complicated topic that, Sarah doesn't really want to launch into. It's not that I'm not capable of talking about all of those things. It's just, I don't really care. Yes, it's coming along. You're here, Tywin. Thank you. Thanks for joining us. I'm glad you're here. Why? I don't need to choose either Democrat or Republican. That's like saying, I want you to only choose cornflakes or Raisin Bran for breakfast. Forget that other cereals exist. Forget eggs exist. Forget frosted. Forget, you could have pancakes or waffles or anything. But you have to be either Democrat or Republican. No, thank you. I can be myself. Well, I'm glad that you find this entertaining. Actually, it did. Abraham Lincoln was a third-party candidate. Fact. Fact. Yeah, at the time it was third party. There was a Whig party. Republican at one time was third party. Besides, you already have plenty of Democrats to choose from, and even Republicans to choose from. It's time to think outside the box.
All of the indicators are pointing in the right direction.
Okay. What do you guys think of a... Never mind. All right. Yeah, you have plenty of people to choose from in the Democrats and Republicans. All right. Thank you, 490, for your advice. Go find a Democrat or Republican to support. I'm sure you'll find someone. There's plenty of people out there. And then there's also a few of us independents as well. You may think so, but we march to the beat of our own drum. Thank you. You already have plenty of people in your race, 490. Plenty of people. So New York County has declared a measles emergency. It bans anyone under 18 who isn't vaccinated from being in public places. $50,000 warehouses are going to deploy robots. From roboticsandautomationnews.com. $50,000 warehouses are going to use 4 million robots by 2025. So in just 6 years, 4 million robots. What'll people do for work then? Right now, there's only 4,000 warehouses that are using robots. So this is according to a report from ABI Research. This adoption will be driven by the need for flexible, efficient, and automated e-commerce fulfillment as same-day delivery becomes the norm. People want something, they want to order it, and then they want to get it right away. Robots enable warehouses to scale operations up or down as required while offering major efficiency gains and mitigating inherent challenges associated with labor and staffing. Please stop, Anita. Yeah, slowly but surely, there's more and more self-checkout and more automation happening. If you'd like to be on the cutting edge of that, if you'd like to work in that field, I suggest Udacity. Get a degree from Udacity. I just saw their first term is like $1,000, something like that. You want to work at the factories that make the robots? Then get a degree from Udacity. They'll connect you. They have these things called nano degrees. You can be working with a company within about 6 months. You do, of course, have to do a little investment yourself to start with. But I would seriously look into that. You do need to know a little bit of programming. Is it really replacing? No one will ever replace human beings. Robots will just do the manual labor, and it will free human beings to do other things. However, they work with industry war games. If you want an accredited degree, I would recommend a data analyst degree from Western Governors University, which includes a Udacity Nano degree. David's in the other room, probably talking about the Mueller issue and the Russian collusion. Russia is deploying troops and equipment to Venezuela. Oh, that's fun. All right. Okay, no, I don't want to stop a local recording. We're just had to. Are we connected to the internet at all? I don't know.
It looks like we have 2 lights now that are out.
Okay,
Oh,
I have
maybe
no
up,
internet.
down. Let's go. I'll just record the show from here.
I am. I thought it is recording.
Okay, perfect. Is that the same recording?
As far as I know.
Good. Okay. All right. Thank you, Sarah. Okay, folks, I'm going to go ahead and do the show despite the fact that our internet was shut down, probably DDoS for some reason.
Well, I said something about Russia sending troops to Venezuela.
I can't hear you. Could you repeat that?
Russia is sending troops to Venezuela.
Oh, okay. Thank you. We just found out that Russia is sending troops to Venezuela.
Unplug this.
Yeah, it seems to be off. But unplug it. Well, my point, this whole thing about Juicy Smollett, since I'm recording to the recorded broadcast, I might as well just continue. Sometimes I don't need an audience to talk. The Juicy Smollett thing reminds me of the couple of the guys that were arrested in Arizona for abducting an entire family and keeping them hostage. And then right after that, the federal government oversaw it and said, no, we're going to release these guys on a technicality. Why? Well, because they're involved in an operation that we're... What kind of an operation? There's no questioning the government, apparently. The federal government can engage in abducting people and holding them hostage. And they could have been training terrorists for all we know. And yet they're allowed to do this under the veil of the federal government operation, and it oversees the state. This is kind of the Juicy Smollett thing. Something about his case used to divert our attention was brought to our attention. I showed this to all the people last night. And earlier tonight, rather. While everyone was obsessing over an actor lying about being attacked, the Houston PD admitted they lied about a raid that killed an innocent couple. That's a huge news story. I mean, I'd even like to know more about it now. A BBC producer revealed the hospital scene was staged after the Doma sarin attack. We need to know why that happened. And how come there's no accountability by our government regarding how we treated the Syrian situation? And the beef industry is now backing bills to ban the sale of plant-based meats. It still says the internet's down. Yeah, it's kind of strange. People want to become vegetarians, can't. No plant-based meats, according to the beef industry. Wow. And a report found a record-breaking $5.7 billion was spent on the midterm elections. That is a record. I mean, there's a lot of people trying to vie for control of our government. Now back to your regular schedule of brainwashing. Okay, so that's pretty interesting. Yeah, so we have been disconnected from the internet. Definitely. Well, I think what we'll do is probably wrap the show up at 9 o'clock and call it a day. Yeah, so we round robin to the empty screen. Nobody's able to watch this show, so I'll just play it anyway. Today we actually had a story about Alex Jones pushing conspiracy theories about the death of a Sandy Hook father who's suing him. I don't know. I mean, the whole story seems suspicious because the man left a note and we still don't know what his note said. A suicide note. So that's very suspicious. Yeah. We'd like to know what his suicide note said. The situation, cops called for a federal probe related to the Obama aide involvement in the Jussie Smollett case. Apparently, Michelle Obama's aide got Jussie Smollett released. Yeah. Yeah, according to this, Chicago Police Union has demanded a federal investigation into the county's top prosecutor for allegedly interfering in the Jussie Smollett case after being contacted by Michelle Obama's former chief of staff. The Fraternal Order of Police, which represents the department's rank and file, sent a letter earlier this week asking the Department of Justice to probe Cook County State Attorney Kim Foxx. So the police want to get restitution because they don't like looking like, idiots arresting a guy for this and then now getting him off scot-free. I mean, who does he owe? What has he done for those people? How is he getting special treatment? How is he above the law? Okay, we got that going on. I think I'll add this one to my Flipboard. And I'm still disconnected from the internet.
Yep. There's nothing really I can do.
I think the internet is down completely, so...
The internet is down.
It could be the solar flares that have been happening.
Or there was this huge jet noise above us.
There was.
That simultaneously.
When the internet went out, the huge jet noise happened. So we may have been hit with like a mini EMP or something. Amazing.
Well, our electric is still on.
Yeah, I know that works, but... And I think this video is in memory. Let's see if it'll play. No, it won't play. It's out of memory. That was a video of a bunch of Mexicans getting out of that truck. Believe it or not, that truck has like 10 or 12 people inside of it, all stacked in the back of it. And they were pulled over by Border Patrol and they got out. It's pretty wild. I watched it earlier. And there's more stuff coming out about the Trump-Moscow Tower deal. This may be a very interesting connection. This man who Trump didn't even acknowledge knowing at one point, yet he had an office right down from Trump's office. This man, New York developer Felix Sater, is due to testify in Congress this week about his role in Donald Trump's attempt to build a luxury tower in Moscow. Yeah, now, when Trump was asked about his actual activities in Moscow, or with doing business with Russia, he said openly that he didn't do business with Russia. But we're finding out now that maybe he was doing business with Russia when he said he didn't do business with Russia, which is a direct and outright lie to the American people. Another issue. Yeah, and Mike Pence is trying to make himself known, going out against Omar and her statement, which clearly was not anti-Semitic. It just wanted to recognize the issue of why AIPAC has had so much influence over America. And that's all Omar was trying to do. But Mike Pence wants to call her out on it, calling anti-Semitism, which it's not. It's anti-Zionism is what it is. And that's pretty much it. All right, wrapping up the show. Thank you, everybody, for coming into this broadcast, a 3-hour truncated broadcast, because we have literally been knocked down. Some sort of an electromagnetic pulse or something took out our internet. So we'll try to get it up and running in just a second. So if you are going to see the show again, feel free to check us out at 5 o'clock every night, Pacific Standard Time, for our live pre-show. And this show is recorded, of course, into perpetuity. All right. I'll play a little outro and say goodnight to our recorded broadcasting audience. The people did not see this part live. I am definitely Mr. Right, and I'm going to sign off with that. Thank you.
I never thought I'd find a man who blows my mind, but you